Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, if it's your first time seeing my channel, then there may be a specific message for you. So if it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, just leave it aside. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but there could be something that comes up in this message that is prompting you to think about a certain subject or question your own ideas. And if you double down on it, fine. Or if you're more open to changing your perception, then that's also a good thing. Follow your own guidance and trust your instincts about what you're supposed to be doing. There's something coming through about not closing down though. So sometimes when we're challenged, when we have a particular perspective or a particular belief, and someone challenges that, we can sometimes lock down and get defensive. I'm literally seeing it like locking down, like almost like putting a wall up. And it feels quite Cancerian. This is a very Cancerian placement thing to do. So particularly if someone has like Mars in Cancer, that kind of it's like a fear of being wrong. So you put your wall up, and then it's almost like attacking the other person rather than listening to what that person's saying or considering their approach or considering their angle. There's definitely something coming through about points of view. Also, my tummy has started rumbling. Basically, as soon as I sat down to do this reading, it's been fine all day. So I think there's something about the second chakra coming through. So if that resonates, take it. But basically, we could be talking about issues to do with confidence or creativity or feeling empowered or disempowered could be coming through. But what was I going to say about that kind of defensiveness? There's definitely something coming through about different points of view and respecting other people's points of view. Um, there's I was thinking about somebody who is linked to politics, like they have been in politics in the past, and they're quite a controversial figure. I'm not going to say specifically who. Again, I don't want to get into any specific politics here, but there's a woman in politics who is very, very beautiful. And I don't necessarily like a lot of her beliefs or the way that she does politics, but she is very beautiful. And so I was thinking about this, and the beauty card kind of fell off the table. So there's something about it doesn't matter how beautiful someone is. It's like the beauty doesn't matter. The beauty isn't a factor in this conversation that we're having, whether someone is beautiful or not, right? It's like there's something deeper or there's something more important that we should be looking at. So that's going to come through here in the reading, and I'll talk about that when we get to it. What else as well? Interesting that the princess has come through here as well, because uh, while the person I'm thinking of is not a princess, um, you could see a similar court dynamic on that person if you wanted to. I'm going to move away from that actually. So what else as well? Let me get my notes. Again, if this is not resonating, it's absolutely fine. It may be something that doesn't make sense now, but will play out in the next couple of weeks. That's normally how I find my readings work. I'll be like, I don't know what's coming through. I don't know what I'm talking about here. This doesn't make any sense to me. And then I'll go and watch a movie and it'll be that exact storyline. Or I will see something in the news and it's exactly what I was talking about. In fact, I wanted to mention this because I was going to do a reading a couple of weeks ago. And I've got some of my notes here. So I don't know if Nessun Dorma might be important. You know, Pavarotti is probably Pavarotti's most famous song. It's that one. So that came through. I woke up in the morning and it was playing in my head like a radio. And then something about take that, relight my fire. So I don't know if there's something coming through about somebody who's getting like a second wind with something, or, you know, being re-inspired about something, or a relationship that's rekindling could be something. Take that specifically keeps coming through. The band, I think they are doing something. I noticed they had some kind of live stream up the other week, and I think they may be ready to do a tour or release a new album or something. I don't know. I'm not like a super fan of theirs. I like the songs, right? They're like classic British pop songs, but I don't know too much about them. Something that was coming through with them though, I'm sorry, my readings, if you are new, the way that I channel when I open myself up to receive messages, they come through very, very quickly, and I can't always, um it's like a different part of my brain than the speaking part of my brain. So, when I'm getting the messages, they come through quite quickly, and it can be quite hard to keep up with words. So you will find that I stumble over my words a lot, or I jump around from subject to subject quite a lot. I'm not always quite this chaotic. I'm a little bit chaotic. I do have that energy to me, but if you meet me in real life, I'm not always jumping from subject to subject quite so quickly. It does tend to be when I'm channeling that I really kind of get very scatty and get all over the place. It's just a different, it's like a different format of my brain is the way I'm being led to describe it. It's my brain uses a different operating system when I'm channeling. So sort of like a different state of being almost. But coming back round to take that, there was something coming through the other day where there was something about very rich people don't look like they're rich, was the way it was coming through. Um, it was strange. So I'd seen Gary Barlow, Mark Owen, and can I remember his name now? It's been a long time since, I've been talking about the members of Take That. I think it was Jason Orange. And they were meeting up on this London street, and Gary was kind of going like, oh, I'm just out in London. Wait, who's that? Who's that? And the other two came walking up the street. It was clearly like planned, but it was a cute little skit. But they all look really scruffy, like almost like, and this isn't me slighting them, but you think about someone who was very famous, and you think about somebody who potentially made a lot of money, and you don't expect them to look kind of, I don't know, almost like a tramp kind of thing. They looked quite scruffy. They hadn't shaved, or one had long hair, and so, and I thought to myself, like, you could pass people in the street and not know who they are. Do you know what's coming through now? And it's an old song. I don't know if there's something about 90s songs, but it's the song that was like, what if God was one of us? What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us, just a stranger on the bus trying to make his way home. So there's something about either expectations of someone who's very wealthy to be very kind of like tailored and well presented and clean shaven and like hair freshly cut and styled, but someone what else is coming through as well? Do you think I'd show up in a limousine? It's Billie Eilish. Did you think I'd show up in a limousine? I had to save my money for security. So there could definitely be something coming through where somebody's unexpectedly a lot scruffier than someone was expecting. Or it could be like, I've had this experience as well, where you're talking to someone, just a stranger in the street or a person in a bar, and you're having a chat with them, and you walk away and somebody goes, do you know who that was? For me, it was Curly Watts. I was having a chat with Curly Watts from Coronation Street, and I had no idea who he was. But I've got face blindness, so I don't recognize people anyway. So yeah, and then something to do with wealth as well. So you know how like the certain places in like the Middle East, for example, or certain places in America, everything is like, all the buildings are all shiny and glass and gold and marble, and this kind of like very showy display of wealth. So there's something about wanting people to know you're wealthy. I think this is quite tacky. I'm quite resistant to this style of flashiness because I think it's kind of crude. I think it's kind of tacky. I'm British, and if you grow up, well, the way I grew up, being taught kind of like Church of England lessons, there's a lot about humility. Religious stuff tends to come up in my readings quite a lot. I think maybe people who come to my readings maybe grew up with Bible stories as well, or maybe are particularly religious. I'm not a practicing religious person in real life, other than I do believe in the concept of God. I just don't believe in any specific earthly religion. I think they're all manifestations of the same God, but that's my own particular belief. But I do get these religious themes coming up through my readings, which bring in things that I haven't thought about for a long time. So I'm thinking about like the Good Samaritan as well. That story about them giving something to the guy on the side of the street, almost like Secret Billionaire. Do you remember that TV show as well, where they'd have somebody who was, or is it Secret Millionaire? I suppose it'd be billionaire now because, you know, inflation. But, you know, they'd have someone who's very wealthy, like a CEO of a business, and they'd go undercover in their own business. So I think there was a woman who's went undercover as like a hairdresser at one point. And the interesting thing is, a lot of the time, people who are very, very wealthy, they only have the perspective that is allowed to them, right? They only have the perspective of their own experience. So you hear people talking about wealthy people and they don't know how much bread costs, or they don't know how much milk costs. Or there's this thing that you see people saying where it's, I think there was a girl on TikTok the other day who was saying very genuinely, she wasn't being nasty or anything, but she was saying, I don't understand why people can't afford to eat, because, you know, I can look at Aldi and I can get a bag of pasta for 40p, and I can get, you know, a thing of mushrooms for 80p. And it's like, I don't understand why people talk about like food, you know, food, what's the opposite of wealth? Food poverty. And I've been there. When I first had my children, I didn't have very much money at all. Like I was really scraping by, and I was constantly in my overdraft. And it's a complex set of situations and problems that can come in together. So one, you may be a lot more stressed because, you know, you're worried about money, or, you know, whatever, you're worried about work or whatever it is. So you're more stressed, which means that it's harder to plan for meals. There may be disabilities involved. So for example, I think I've got ADHD. I haven't been diagnosed, but you can probably tell by how scatty I am that I probably do. But, you know, if you do have any kind of disability, you know, planning and organizing and thinking ahead can be difficult. Some people are very good at it, some people aren't. It depends on, you know, it's all about personal experience at the end of the day, and listening to a person and understanding what they personally struggle with, whether or not they have a disability, and not judging them for that as well. You know, if you have got young children as well, you know, there can be a lot of things that come up where, you know, just things around children where things can be quite unexpected or distracting. As well, things like, does this person have a fridge? Do they have a freezer? If one breaks, do they have the money to replace it? Because that's quite a big bill, you know, £400 to replace a fridge, probably more than that now. So they may not actually have a way to store food. Eating healthy as well is very difficult because the healthy food tends to be more perishable than the junk food. So, and it tends to be more expensive. So, you know, you can buy a big massive bag of chips for 80p and stick that in your freezer, and that's going to be, you know, 5 portions of food or whatever, however long those chips last. Like but to buy things like apples, or to buy things like plums, I've bought some plums this week, and, you know, you've got that window of them going from too hard to eat to like going quite soft and squidgy and not very pleasant. And I'm not the sort of person who's organized enough to make jam. So they end up going in the bin. So I eat 1 or 2 and then it's like, I've missed my chance with the plums, you know? So yeah, it's and time as well. If somebody is working 2 or 3 jobs, you know, they come home exhausted, they might not have time to or energy to prepare a cooked meal, you know, a cooked nutritious meal that they've planned for, and they've been out to the shop. Another thing is transport. So for me, if I used to have to go to a supermarket that was a good walk from my house, and it wasn't a huge walk. I do like to walk long distances, but when you need to go back with heavy shopping and heavy bags, potentially a child and a buggy, it can be very difficult. You only have 2 pairs of hands, you only have so much strength, and you know, it can be very time consuming to go and purchase the food and bring it back. So there's all these factors that make it more complicated than people can understand if they haven't actually been in that situation. And so there could definitely be something coming through with this where I'm hearing the shoe is on the other foot. So someone could go from wealth to not having wealth, or somebody could just be experiencing something from somebody else's perspective. I don't know exactly, sorry, there's a hair on there. I don't know exactly what this is. Again, it could be some sort of TV show that comes up. They're showing me as well Mickey Mouse. Is there a Mickey Mouse film where it's kind of like The Prince and the Pauper? Did they do like a Mickey Mouse version of that, where it's kind of the prince becomes the pauper and the pauper becomes the prince? So I don't know what all these different things are, but they're coming through. So take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and just be open to these themes coming through in the collective. It could be things that we see in the news as well. So the other thing that I had in my previous reading, and I am quite sad that I didn't do a video on it as kind of almost evidence of what I was seeing. So the two cards that came out of my own deck very clearly were ship and ocean. And I feel like this was a very obvious message, because then I went to the Kim Kranz deck, so ship, ocean, and then the card that came through for that was fire ants. And I very, very vividly got an image of like a ship going down and everybody going to the same lifeboat. So I don't, and then it came through in two different ways. So one was my eldest is at college, and they'd had a kind of like a morals and ethics lesson that basically used that exact thing. It was like the same day, or the next day. It was very, very quickly that this came through. And the question was, as I looked for this card, the question was, okay, you're in a situation, there's only one lifeboat, there's only so many spaces on the lifeboat, these are the people who are in the water, you can't overfill the lifeboat, otherwise it'll sink. So it's kind of like, who do you save and who do you let drown? And there was like a baby, the baby's mother, so it's obviously like, well, if you want the baby to survive, you might need to also take the mother, because the mother's the one who can feed the baby. And then there was like a doctor, and there was somebody who was on the brink of some groundbreaking kind of like cancer medication. And then there was someone who was like a criminal, and there was someone who like someone with a disabled wife, and there was all these different, so it was ethics, it was morals, it was kind of like value on life, so yeah, it was, I don't like things like that because I'm too logical a person. There it is, there's a picture. So you can see here with the visual, normally it comes through like everybody piling on and attacking somebody, but because I had ship and ocean, it really looked to me like lots of people in the water all trying to get onto the same boat. And so then after this as well, there's also the flotilla that's going towards Palestine. With Greta Thunberg and a number of activists from 40 different countries who are all in this fleet of ships, who are all taking baby food to a starving population, as though that's a bad thing. I think it's very brave and heroic of them personally to step up where governments are failing a whole country of people. And this, I'm not... I do want to say, because I think a lot of people who are Jewish or who are Israeli feel very attacked at the moment. They feel like the person in the middle of this attack, because whether they agree or disagree with what their government is doing to Palestine, they do feel very threatened, and they do feel very concerned and attacked and defensive. Okay, I can understand everybody's perspective in this. So I'm not kind of like, if somebody hasn't done anything wrong, if I'm British, I'm from England, the English government does not have the best track record when it comes to world matters, but it's never something that I have endorsed or wanted or chosen. I'm against war. I think war is a bad thing. And I think when you go to war, your leaders have failed you, because they should have done peace negotiations. They should have, war is the failure of negotiations, and it's the political job to do negotiations. I think that's my perspective. So, you know, whatever nationality somebody is, it doesn't matter. I think the job of a government is to keep their people safe and to not provoke or engage in war. So, yeah, coming back from that, because I said I didn't want to get too political, and I am trying to be quite fair, and you know, seeing the 50 shades of grey in a situation, and laying blame on the people who I think deserve the blame for doing things that are quite atrocious. But I don't think babies are to blame. Let's put it that way. So this, I think, could also be talking about something to do with the flotillas. I think there was a situation where one of the ships, like I think the engine failed or something, and the people on board that ship had to go and get on one, like the other ships. But I would be curious about this. It could also just be one of my ancestors. One of my ancestors was in that situation where they were on a ship that's sunk and they got saved by a lifeboat. So I don't know how that's coming through, but just it's there. And it's coming through quite strongly. Like I say, immediate confirmation from my child and that lesson. Okay, but moving to this reading that's on the table right now, I'm just going to kind of move the 5 ants to kind of move that energy just in case it's not part of this reading. Okay, okay, no crocodile in the water. The crocodile fell off the table. So the crocodile lies in wait. It's a very ancient energy. It's a very calculating energy. It's a very knowledgeable energy. It's not wasting energy either. It's patient, and it's waiting for its opportunity. So it comes through as one of my darker cards, but it's not necessarily dark. It could be dark in terms of the conversation that we've had. However, there is something coming through about something behind something. Well, I'll come back to that. But this came off the table, right? It was like, we don't want to talk about that. So I'm going to put that away. I don't want to draw any more attention to that necessarily. It could be something to do with the reading that I've got on the table here, though. I'm going to just take a quick break and have a quick drink of my coffee, and then we'll get into it. Okay, so when I was channeling this message last night, the first thing that drew my attention was my kind of crystal that's on the table, and it looked really cloudy to me. It almost looked like it was dusty or milky, and you can see it's actually quite a clear crystal, but for some reason it looked clouded. And then I pulled the cards. Rainbow came out, which is interesting because if you know anything about my readings, like I talk a lot about prisms and different perspectives, and how, you know, the whole gem is the whole gem, right? But you can turn it and you can look through different views. You can look through different angles. So this talks to me a lot about being able to, especially with the rainbow, right, where you get a light source that hits that prism and then it fractals out, and you can look at each of those colors separately. So it talks about an analytical process to me. It talks about seeing things from different angles and understanding something from a bigger picture. So not having a blinkered view, but being able to see a complex situation and all its nuance. It's a very Libran energy to me. It could also be any of the air signs, but it used to come through very, very regularly in Libra readings. This idea of being able to switch your perspective and almost see things through other people's eyes, which I was talking about before, actually, this idea of walking in someone else's shoes. So this idea of being able to have almost like extreme empathy. Empathy is such a superpower, in my opinion. I know other people might disagree, but they're wrong. Listen, my messages come directly from God, so I don't know. That was a joke. That was me being silly. Moving swiftly on. So this idea of being able to have extreme empathy, which is a kind of superpower, because if you are blinkered, if you can only see things from your own perspective, the word I want to use is stupid, but I don't find that to be a fair word. I think people who are, I see certain people as victims because, and they don't know that they're victims. People who have not had access to the kind of education that allows for critical thinking skills. People who are taught education by rote, this is a fact, repeat it, great, you got an A, right? It's not intelligence. Intelligence is critical thinking skills. This is what you get taught more when you get to university level. And depending on which school you go to and kind of what country you're in, where you say, this person said this thing. I don't want you to repeat it. I want you to say, why did that person say that thing? When did that person say that thing? What point were they trying to make? Does anyone disagree with this point? Why would they disagree? Why would it suit them to have that point? Why would it suit this person to have this point? So you get these higher level kind of intelligence where being able to really analyze another person's perspective or another person's opinion from their point of view, from their life experience, from any motivating factors that they might have. And the reason why it's a kind of superpower, especially in terms of debate, is that you can potentially see what they can't see, right? You can look at things from their blind spots. You can also deconstruct and analyze, and you can weaponize your knowledge of their viewpoint to undermine their argument. So I feel like my guys want to talk about debate in itself. There's intellectual debate, there's logical debate, there's critical thinking, which I think is the highest form of debate. I studied classics, I studied Cicero. I call him Cicero because there was no soft C in ancient Latin, which I studied classical Latin. Cicero and Caesar is the way I would pronounce those words, but I'm probably doing it wrong. So Cicero, obviously known to be very good at debate, and you read a lot of political texts and the way that an argument is formed. I also did literature, so again, kind of like breaking down these texts, breaking down language, breaking down what someone's saying, breaking down an argument, reformulating it, picking out the weak points, all taught at uni, right? I think I had a predisposition to it, again, probably because of my upbringing, my education, but yeah, which wasn't posh. I went to like an average school in the UK. I didn't go to like a fancy school or anything like that, but it's just the education system at the time. And also I think my parents, I think especially my dad would teach me to question things. But some people aren't taught that. Some people are taught to follow the rules, don't question authority, repeat facts. And also something I was taught as well when pretty much at the start of my uni course was stupid people think they know everything. Smart people know that they have a huge amount that they don't know, because facts are very slippery actually, and there are things that are indisputable, that there's a huge amount of evidence for, but there are a lot of things that are also, we're finding new evidence all the time that brings into question what we thought we knew, especially if you're doing anything like archaeology. So what you're taught to do at university is not make any sure facts. You could be risking your career if you throw all your weight behind a fact and it turns out to be debunked. So what academics tend to do is talk more in probabilities. What we currently have evidence for makes this a likely probability. Which I think, again, when you're taught to think intellectually through all these different angles, and to be able to almost put a jigsaw piece, and I'm not the most intelligent person in the world, right? I don't want to make anyone feel stupid if they haven't had a good education. This is my point. I think that certain governments like to keep people stupid because it makes them easier to control. And stupid's a really strong word, right? I think going back to the idea of I don't think it's a fair word. let's say, I think the less educated you are, the more likely you are to think that having a fixed viewpoint is a sign of strength or intelligence. To make a strong statement and stick to it and dig your heels in. You do find that the less educated someone is, the more likely they are to do this. Because there's a stronger need to be right. There's ego, which could be why ego sublimation is here. We'll come back to that as well. So the cloudy diamond, why is it cloudy? I don't know, but it was on here. I kind of put it down and it was on this specific card. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I don't know if I'll be able to like get the angle again, but it almost looked like an eye. It almost looked like a green eye. And suddenly this green eye came into focus. So there could be something specific about green eyes or just about focusing. It almost looks like it there, you see. So there could definitely be something, because this is talking about the prism, seeing things from different perspectives. It's almost like maybe being clouded by information, maybe having a lot on your mind, or, you know, conflicting information. And then it's almost like the puzzle suddenly comes into view, like something suddenly makes sense. All the jigsaw pieces fit together and you see that bigger picture and you see why something is the way it is. So it definitely could be something like, maybe there's certain world events happening. I don't know what this is, right? I'm just going to kind of spitball and throw stuff at the wall here. But maybe there's certain events happening. Like you're seeing things in the news and you're like, that's happening there, that's happening there, that's happening there. What's going on? And then suddenly you see that it's all connected and then everything makes sense. And then the why, it's like you have the answer to the why. It's like that it connects to this, this connects to this, this connects to this. Now I see this web of, I want to say web of information, which could be interesting, but now we see this web of connection between all these global events, potentially. The card itself that drew my attention is this nightingale spirit. Now, birds were coming through very strongly in the last reading, so that could be relevant to someone. Also singing. I was getting something about like a bird singing in a cage for this reading. You know, like Japanese songbirds, they're kept in cages. I think there was something like this in Hannibal, if you ever read that sequel to The Silence of the Lambs. But there's something about like a bird in a cage can still sing, something like that. But the number 41 could be relevant. That was really drawing my attention last time. Nightingales could be relevant. Maybe you're seeing nightingales. Maybe this is a sign for you. You can see there's something about singing or speaking your voice or making noise. And then it says love is all around. So the message does seem to be something to do with love itself. The cards that came out from my own reading, the princess and the rainbow. So the underlying was the princess. So it's coming through very strongly like the rainbow princess, almost like Rainbow Bright or something. I don't know. The rainbow princess. So it could be a princess who's gay, maybe. I can't think of anyone in real life who is a gay princess that I'm aware of, but maybe. There could be something... And it could be something to do with hope. Rainbows are a symbol of hope, of opportunities that lie beyond where you currently are. That hasn't come through before in terms of rainbows, but I was fed it from my guides as I was speaking. It does seem to be someone who is associated with this idea of like love is all around. You know, somebody who... Princesses tend to be symbols of hope. You know, if you think about someone like Princess Diana, you know, she was seen as somebody who did a lot of good in the world. She spread a lot of love. You know, there's lots of videos of her going to hospitals and speaking to people who were ill, or, you know, going to minefields and like war zones to kind of like look after the people there, or, you know, speak up for the people there, people who didn't have a voice. So maybe there's something about speaking up for people who don't have a voice. By somebody who is in a position of authority or power, or is somehow given a platform. The problem with the rainbow princess, though, is that behind her is the dragon. It is in reverse, but it did draw my attention. Like this card slipped off and I saw the dragon. So there could be something about you know how royalty can sometimes be the face of a bigger monster, if you like. And again, I'm not talking about any specific loyalty, but there could be something about the face of a organization, or somebody who's the face of, it's like, and there's nothing wrong. The princess is not coming through as bad, right? The princess is not coming through as though she's deceptive, or um she's coming actually through as very, very good. So, you know, it could be the good person in a bad family, or I don't know. Again, I'm not talking about any one specific person, but if you are thinking of a specific person, follow that train of thought for yourselves. You know, consider that idea. Tell me about, whoa, the fish. Opportunity. That's what I said about the rainbow. Wealth and opportunity. It's hard to shuffle with this on my finger. I've got something on my finger and I don't know if it's like a wart. It's just like a little dry bit. But I got really, really paranoid about it. And so I've been treating it like it's a wart, but now it's kind of like, I think I've made it worse. I think I've just basically caused my finger to become calloused through my paranoia. So maybe because I'm talking about that now, maybe it's relevant. You know, becoming calloused, becoming guarded, treating something as bad because, you know, you're scared of it being bad. It may not be bad in itself, but the response, the way it's treated, could actually it's like it could create the monster. Maybe that's what's coming through. You know, how would I explain this? Situations where you know, sometimes people talk about the partners, right? Like, you know, someone with attachment issues gets into a relationship and they're like, I'm scared my partner's going to cheat. I'm scared my partner's going to cheat. And they constantly treat the partner as though they're going to cheat. Like they're also constantly checking the phone, or where are you going? Who have you been with? And that kind of paranoid behavior could actually push the person away from them and into the arms of another person. And it's like, that might not have happened had that person not expected it to happen. You know, it's kind of like, if you know, thinking something into existence in a way. So I don't know, but the fish and the rainbow princess, so I'm thinking like rainbow fish as well. You know how like fish have scales, which again comes into this idea of like prisms and kaleidoscopes, fractaling light. I have a D&D character that her whole thing is, she's Shada Kai, which is basically like a shadow elf, and all her magic, all her powers, all her abilities are all linked to the ability to play with light and mirrors, kind of thing, a bit like Mirror here. It's kind of like be able to play tricks with the light in order to, you know, turn invisible, or to create an illusion, you know? So tricks with the lights, prisms, rainbows. Why is the... Okay. So I was asking, the question didn't even come out of my mouth, but I can see lamb and vulture. The question I was going to ask was, why is the dragon behind the princess? So I think the princess is the lamb, right? Which brings to me sacrificial lamb. This idea of like someone who's facing the public, perhaps someone who is expendable. I think of, I don't want to say certain words and names, but I think you'll probably understand who I'm talking about. So there was a certain person and a certain list, and this certain person had a chess set made where they were the king, and the king chess piece was modeled after them. And they had a lot of young girls who went and modeled to be the pawns, right? And so this idea of like the pawns being expendable, being able to move around the board but being expendable. And then the vulture doesn't feel good, does not feel good, that combination. So it feels to me, especially because the lamb's on top with the princess, you know, sweet, like innocence, and then the vulture being the dragon underneath. The vulture, I was thinking about vulture spirit in terms of companies, specifically companies that buy another company. So there's people who have a company and they will grow that company and they will be very creative. They will invest in making that company grow and be bigger, right? It's a springtime energy, it's a life energy. And then sometimes when a company gets to a certain size, they get bought up. That's a good example. Thank you, because I didn't want to say the example I was thinking of. And I was given another one, so I was just thanking my guides. So yeah, I'll finish my thought and then I'll use that example. So sometimes like investment companies might come in, or bigger companies come in, like umbrella companies, and they come in and they swoop up and buy these smaller companies, where, you know, the company to that point has been entirely about growth. But a lot of the time these vulture companies come in and they, like a leech, they bleed everything they can out of that company. So another example, so the example they're giving me now is you know, Pretty Woman. And he's like, we'll build big ships together. You know, originally Richard Gere's company went in and bought smaller companies, and then they'd strip it apart and they'd sell off the parts. And they would basically just absorb that company and all its assets, and make as much money as they could from dissolving that company, basically. So that's why I say it's a vulture, right? It's this picking apart energy that these companies do. And so the example that they were giving me, now it hasn't actually happened, but this person was talking about it. So there's a YouTuber called Call Me Chris, and her partner, who I can't think of his channel's name at the moment. Is it Oompa? It's not Oompa Loompa, is it? Oompaville, I think it is. But Call Me Chris was talking about her company, where she's, like a lot of YouTubers, has started a sweet company, a confectionery company. And she has all these different types of like jelly sweets and things like this that get sold in, I presume, supermarkets. And you know, it was kind of a bit of a love child for her and a partner, and they've got all these flavors and they've got all this stuff going. But now that she's got a certain level of success, right, she's built this company up. Another, she says in her, you know, I'm not in her own words, but this is how I recall her explaining this in one of her videos. She said she'd been approached by at least one bigger company who wanted to buy the company from her. And she would have made a lot of money from it, right? They would have bought it for a lot of money. But she didn't want to sell it because she, from the way I understood what she was saying, she was tired of these big companies owning everything. She's tired, and they make a lot of videos about this as well, her and her partner. And she's sick of, like, you know, that kind of late stage capitalism. Everything's owned by three companies. Predatory practices, you know, she it doesn't align with her values. So she said, even though they're not really making money out of this candy business, yeah, like everything that they make, they're kind of putting back into it, and it's a risk for them. It might not be successful, and the amount of time that they're putting into it, they're not getting that value back. But she said, I'd rather do that and have this creative love child than, you know, just sell it and make a load of money. And I thought, good for you, girly. You know, she's doing all right. I don't think she needs the money, but I liked that. So that feels like what that is to me. The horse, yeah, this is the work, this is the hard work. So the lamb, the sacrifice, is I didn't know what this was until I moved it, and it makes perfect sense. The horse is labor, it's hard work, it's sturdy, it's steadfast, it's there's effort that's been put into something. And then the vulture. So it's like this person's doing all the work, and this energy's willing to sacrifice this energy and take the harvest, is the way that's coming through. Okay, get rid of those nasty cards, and we'll keep going. So as I was pulling these cards, the song that came through was Robbie Williams, who used to be a member of Take That. I don't know why this is such a theme at the moment, but it's probably his most famous song, which is so funny to me because recently there was a kind of a trend on social media because Robbie Williams, very famous, very successful in like solo artist after he left Take That, very troubled, but he had some right bangers, and one of his most famous songs was Angels. I'm loving angels instead. Very, very famous song, very popular. Everybody, I think everybody in the UK probably over a certain age has heard that song, like word for word will know every word to that song. And then there was this thing on social media where Americans had no clue, no idea who he was. They thought he was made up, they thought he wasn't real, they thought we were doing like a joke. And we were like, no, he's more successful than all these other artists that you're really familiar with. Like, more number ones, whatever. And around the whole world everybody knows who he is, and then America was like, who? Because they've been in this bubble where they think that the only thing that's important is America because that's what America's been told. Nationalism. So, and I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing. Governments do what governments do. My overall topic at university was humanities. So again, cultures evolve into what a culture evolves into. A lot of the time it's orchestrated, a lot of the time it's natural. Humans have certain behaviors, and if you stick them all in a big group together, you get that tribal mentality. So, America is what America is, and there's some brilliant things about America, there's some fucking awful things about America, and so I could say the same thing about any other country in the world, right? I'm gonna drink my coffee again. Just gonna sip my tea for a second. If you're coming here as an American, I don't want you to feel attacked. um I personally know, I could probably list about 100 American people that I think are amazing, easily. It's like, give me a list. I will name some 100 fucking awesome Americans. But every country has its problems, and for some reason, those problems are on my table today. The Cloudy Diamond, going back to that for a second, I'm just looking at my notes. There was something coming through with that where there was some neglect. It was like it was cloudy because dust had settled over it, right? It's like it needed some attention. I hadn't tended to my table for a while, and my cat had even knocked some cards off my table. So when I came to it, it was a bit of a mess, and I had to tidy it up. And so there was something coming through about it could be neglect, but it wasn't necessarily, because neglect's a very strong word. It was more like a lack of attention, right? Somebody hadn't paid attention to something for a while, so it was in need of care. So that could be something for somebody as well. With the dragon, the song Demons by Imagine Dragons came. So it's interesting, the idea of Imagine Dragons. There could be something where there is an imagined dragon, an imagined demon, and an imagined vulture even. Whether this is real or not, I think it requires further analysis. So there could be a situation where people are fearing the worst or thinking bad of people. This leads me back round to the idea of like the secret millionaire and what I was saying at the start of the reading, where a lot of the time people just don't know, right? I think it's quite rare that, I think most people are good. Most people are inherently good. But the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So a lot of the time I think people in power are told certain things or have a certain perspective based on their own experiences. And as much as they're told about certain experiences of other people, they haven't lived those experiences. They don't really know. And so I think there could be, and I'm not excusing certain things that are clearly evil that certain leaders are doing maliciously and cruelly and intentionally, which I think can sometimes be very obvious. I think sometimes some people in power, they get into power for good reasons. They get into power because they want to do good things. For example, Keir Starmer is a human rights lawyer, However, I think absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I think people get into power and they get into a certain world and they get into a certain environment where the goalposts change and the rules change a little bit. And suddenly you're dealing with other people who are in power and have potentially had power for a very long time, and potentially haven't had down to earth experiences. And again, I'm not excusing any particular leaders or whatever. I just had an example that Keir Starmer was a human rights lawyer, and that's nothing beyond that, right? I'm not talking about him anymore. So yeah, I think a lot of the time people never intentionally make the worst choice, right? People always make the choice that they think is the best choice, and the reasons for that could be different, but nobody's ever like, that's a stupid idea, let's do that. Everybody's always like, well, these are my options and I think this is the best thing to do based on my own perspective and my own opinions. So I think there could be a situation coming up, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's going to be politics, it could be something in a movie, I don't fucking know, but there could be something coming up where people are fearing the worst about a certain person or a certain business or a certain situation. Like they're seeing devils, right? They're seeing dragons. And it could be that when you actually see things from that person's perspective, they're not a demon at all. They're just making blinkered decisions. And I'm not making excuses for, again, I want to really, really say I'm not making excuses for actual cruel behavior. Because there are people who are like that, who enjoy being cruel. I'm going to take a quick break actually on that note. Okay, so just checking my notes. So this idea of like the demon or the dragon behind the princess, right? It seems like maybe something behind the scenes or something that's somewhat controlling or lurking, this vulture energy. It was with the song Demons by Imagine Dragons, the words "look into my eyes" popped out because I'm actually going to bring up the words to that song. Because I had that thing with the diamond. So it could be that the princess is helping to see something from someone else's perspective. Again, maybe it's somebody who has extreme empathy. Let me just pull that song up. Demons by Imagine Dragons. I do feel like there was something coming through with this song. And because I had the despair card as well pop out from the Findisicle Kipper deck, where someone feels, again, it could be a situation where someone has got involved, like as someone has gained more power, they've got themselves into a situation, or they've got themselves into connections or into a certain world, a certain environment where maybe they've done things that in hindsight they wouldn't have done, right? Maybe they've made choices that they wouldn't have done had they known what they knew now. So they feel like a demon, they feel like they're the monster, they feel like they've done something really wrong, especially in comparison to the princess lamb energy, because that energy seems so very pure and good. It could also be one person who is like, I have a very public face where people think very well of me, but behind closed doors, or if they really knew me, if they could really see me, maybe they wouldn't love me, maybe they fear me, maybe I am a monster. So it could be one person with two sides, which we all do have if you look at Jung philosophy, the idea of like the shadow, the ego and the shadow. Or it could be that there's a second energy who is almost thinking that they're not good enough for the princess, or like they're going to corrupt the princess, like they corrupt the innocence. But the song Demons is when the days are cold and the cards all fold and the saints we see are all made of gold, which was interesting because I was talking about at the beginning that idea of like the tackiness of wealth, like people who are very showy with wealth and like everything's gold and marble and, you know, just almost like I've got wealth for the first time, so I'm going to do the thing that I think wealth looks like, where actually a lot of the time, you know, I think about like the queen in her wellies and her headscarf, right? And obviously she's got castles and obviously she's got a lot of gold and stuff, but you know, she'd be plodding around in her wellies in a Land Rover, you know, and she just looked like any other granny. You know, I don't want to speak disrespectfully about the previous monarch, but and I once saw as well a guy, it was a YouTube video, and it was totally random, but he was because in the UK you can go and like just walk around, like we've got all these like walkways, basically you've got the right to walk around on land, basically, pretty much. So this guy was he was on this big walk, and we have these like little, I can't remember what they're called. I want to say privy, but I don't think it's a privy. There's all these little, maybe there's something about the Privy Council coming up. That's a UK thing. But he's going through to all these little, they're like tiny buildings, like tiny cottages in these remote areas, and they're just open. And if you're going for a walk, you can just go in there and you can rest, or you can stay the night, or you can cook some food. They're just these little kind of like small cottages or huts that you can go and just freely use. I don't think I would do it. I don't think I'd feel super safe, but you know, it's quite a surprisingly common thing for walkers to use. And so he's going around this place, and I believe there's some sort of army base near it, or there was something near it. I can't remember specifically where he was. And he's walking up this path, and King Charles is there. King Charles is just out for a walk in this field, and I think he had security, but they were like a considerable distance before or behind him. And he just stopped and had a chat with King Charles and went on his way. And he could have been just, you know, if you didn't recognize him, if you didn't know who he was, he could have just been any farmer, you know. He's like, there's a farmer out for a walk. Hello, how are you doing? And they went on the way. And so I'm not saying that, you know, obviously I'm not saying like British culture's any better than any other culture. I think I've made that perfectly clear. But there is something about people who are truly very, very wealthy have less of a need to show off about it, right? There's a kind of a wealth confidence that certain people have where, you know, people who haven't had money before, they want to show off that they've made it. They want to wear gold jewelry, or, you know, wear designer clothes with all the labels. And, you know, there's something where it's kind of like, I'm very proud to have made this money. And there's not good or bad, right? But then beyond that, you know, you get people, I know people like Gwyneth Paltrow, she'll be wearing something that's like £1,000, but it just looks like it's off a hanger in Asda, you know? So like quiet quality, quiet luxury. So it could be something like that coming through. Sorry, I went off on a side note there. I want to go back to this kind of dragon demon energy that seems to be somebody who sees the worst in themselves. But the saints we see are all made of gold. So it's like, what do we praise? What do we put on a pedestal? You know, especially with like the Instagram life, you know, suddenly if you've had a lot of surgery done and you're wearing designer gear and you're on holiday in some expensive resort, suddenly you get a bazillion followers. And it's like, why do we value that? Why do we value the Kardashians of the world? You know, why do we put the Nepo babies up on a platform when whatever I'm not saying whatever, like Kardashians, whatever you think about them, I'm onto a different set of, get them out your head. But like, you know, Nepo babies, why do we put them up on such a pedestal and praise them for every average thing that they do, when there's people who have real talent and real skill and real life experience, and, you know, the creativity that comes with having life experience, where you have something to say, you have a story to tell that isn't just, oh yes, mummy bought me a yacht, you know. So something about the grittiness of that, I think, is coming through. I don't know. I don't know what this is. I'm going to keep going. The saints we see are all made of gold. You know, instead of praising goodness, because I see God as goodness, right? We're all chasing, you know, buying a Lamborghini. It doesn't make sense. When your dreams all fail and the ones we hail are the worst of all and the blood runs stale. That's such a good line. That's such a good verse. When your dreams all fail, there's a reason why all our dreams are failing, right? We were told this lie, the capitalist lie, right? The American dream, where if you work hard, if you're determined enough, if you work hard enough, if you outshine your competitors, you will have a comfortable life, you will have a house, you will have security. And everybody's like, well, I've been breaking my back for minimum wage for 30 years now. Where is my fucking house? Why can't I afford to buy a pizza? You know? And so the lie that we've been sold to make us work has worn very thin, I think. And then who has all the wealth, who has all the power, who are the ones we hail? They're the worst of all, right? Potentially. I want to hide the truth. I want to shelter you. But with the beast inside, there's nowhere we can hide. No matter what we breed, we are still made of greed. This is my kingdom come. When you feel my heat, look into my eyes, it's where my demons hide. So I do feel like there's definitely, because that's what I was kind of picking up on, like the dragon behind the princess. It's almost somebody who is maybe a father or somebody who is more worldly. They've got more experience of a darker environment, a darker way that the world works. And they do want to protect the princess, right? They're not, they came through as the vulture. Maybe they are a vulture. It's that thing of not my child, you know? So you see this a lot with people who are particularly wealthy or powerful, where they can treat people very, very horribly. You know, they can really, you know, they can treat women as disposable, but not their daughter, right? So there's a double standard with it. Just very, very curious to see how this plays out, because I'm definitely getting a specific father and daughter coming through. I'm very, very curious to see if something comes out in the news regarding this. But this person, it's like they don't feel worthy. Do you know, a really good something just flashed up in my mind as a really, really good example of this. You know, The Hunchback of Notre Dame and Frollo, and you know Hellfire, that song where he is he basically blames Esmeralda for the way he feels, right? He doesn't take accountability for himself. It's such a good song, but it's an absolute villain song. I just saw on TikTok a performance of it where the guy playing Frollo is like crawling on the floor before a statue, because obviously he's a religious man. He's crawling on the floor before a statue of the Virgin Mary, right? So that very classic image of Mary where she's veiled and she's holding a baby. So it's as though it's a statue, but when you actually look at it, it's an actress. It's a woman playing the Virgin Mary. I think it would have been really good if it was Esmeralda, but I think it was a different actress. And he's, you know, he goes up and he's projecting, because it's so good, because it's almost drawing on, you know, not Pythagoras. What was he called? Oh, I can't think of his name. I wrote a whole blog post about him. It's an ancient Greek myth where a sculptor sculpts a statue and falls in love with it. He's basically made his perfect woman, and he's really derogatory about all the other women in, I think it's in Crete. It's like Aphrodite's island. He's like, yeah, they're all whores. I want a woman who's pure. So he makes this statue and projects everything that he wants a woman to be onto this statue and falls in love with it, right? It's an inanimate object. And that's kind of the point. And then he prays to Aphrodite, and Aphrodite comes and makes the girl real. And I know that there's an idea that's being explored in popular culture at the moment with creation myths like this, where a man creates a woman, but then the woman has her own thoughts. So you can look at, I haven't seen this, but my eldest was telling me about it. It's like a sequel to, it's a sequel to The Suicide Squad, but it's got Frankenstein's monster's wife in it. So Dr. Frankenstein makes a wife for Frankenstein because Frankenstein's lonely, but the wife doesn't really like the monster, and she wants to, you know, go and pursue her own interests, and, you know, she wants a name and all this kind of stuff. So it's the idea of like men creating two-dimensional projections of women, and wanting women to be something that they've crafted in their own mind, but women growing out of their control. And it's not just men and women, right? You could talk about any type of creation where, you know, the creation grows its own life. You could talk about this in terms of art, where, you know, I could write a book, for example, and someone could do a screenplay of my book, and then someone could do a fanfic of the screenplay of my book, and suddenly it's out of my own hands. It's taken on a life of its own. It's become a creation that other people have interjected their own experiences and their own ideas and opinions onto. They've used it as their own vehicle and their own device. It's not my baby anymore. It's flown the nest. And so this idea of maybe even parents and children, you know, you raise a child and you raise it with the values that you want it to have, but you can't be there for every second, controlling every moment of that child's experience. Maybe one day they'll watch a film, or, you know, they'll make a friend, or, you know, something will happen in their life and it will change their mind, it will change their opinions, it will transform their thoughts, and suddenly, you know, their thoughts are a little bit different to your own, and suddenly it's taken them on a whole different life path that you never planned out for them. So whether it's a creation, a piece of art, or it's a literal child or a literal person, things grow and evolve, and they have a life of their own, and that's a good thing. We're not carbon copies of each other, and we're not supposed to be. We're meant to evolve through experience. Humanity is supposed to evolve through experience. Anyway, the next thing that came through was soldiers. Now, the song came on by, I can't remember her name, but the song's called I Will Always Be Your Soldier. I will always be your soldier. I'll be marching by your side. I'll be there for you. It's a nice song. It's a girl singing to her sister, basically, and she's saying, I'm really sorry for how horrible I was to you. And again, this could be a situation between the dragon and the princess character, where perhaps someone's saying, you know, we used to fight a lot, we were really mean to each other, I backstabbed you, I betrayed you, I did things that I can't even speak because I'm so ashamed that I did these things. But I've always got your back. I'm always marching by your side, and I'll always be your soldier. So it's actually a very, very nice song about sibling rivalry and, you know, that kind of love-hate relationship that siblings can like often have. But it did actually, as this song came on, I was drawn to this little pendant of my nana. There she is. And I believe this is my granddad. It looks like my granddad. And he had a little, I think that's one of the, I don't know which war it would have been. I don't know if it was World War II. But yeah, he's a little soldier there. As a lot of people were in those times. I don't know a lot about it. I think he died when I was 6, and I wish I could have heard more of his stories. I wish I could have known him better, you know. But apparently he took a dagger off a German officer. Like, and I would love to know more about that situation. Yeah. So there could definitely be something about someone's grandpa as well. Maybe somebody's grandpa was in the army. Maybe they've passed over and they're saying, I'll always be by your side. But then there's this caution coming through. So the next song that came on was Caution by the Killers. And I heard, it's not related to the song directly, but I heard broke rank. Somebody could have broke rank. And I heard random act of kindness. And it was coming through with the energy of the song. Caution the Killers, broke rank, random act of kindness. Let me just pull up the words to the song. What's it gonna be? Tonight the winds of change are... I didn't have to pull up the lyrics, it came to me. Tonight the winds of change are burning wild and free, and if I can get out of this town, I just might be the one who finally burns it down. I'm throwing caution. So it's about somebody who's throwing caution to the wind. It says, and there is nothing that I wouldn't do. There is nothing that I wouldn't give. There is nothing compelling me. Let me introduce you to the featherweight queen. She's got Hollywood eyes, but you can't shoot what she's seen. Her mama, so she's seen things that you can't put on film, basically. Her mama was a dancer, and that's all that she knew. Because when you live in the desert, it's what pretty girls do. It's all that she knew. Again, that idea of like your world perspective, your worldview, your knowledge of what you could be is limited by your experiences and the bubble that you are permitted to grow up in, right? So where you're born can really determine your life path. But then he says, I'm throwing caution. What's it going to be? Tonight the winds of change are blowing wild and free. If I don't get out of this town, I just might be the one who finally burns it down. So it's somebody who's like really done, right? They're really fed up with a certain situation, and they're saying, fuck it. I'm throwing caution to the wind. I'm going to do what my instincts are telling me to do. And then it goes back to talking about the girl. Never had a diamond on the sole of her shoes, just black top, white trash, straight out of the news. Doesn't like birthdays, they remind her of why she can go straight from 0 to the 4th of July. Yeah. And it's some kind of sin to live your whole life on a might have been. I'm ready now. So with this, and with what I had broke rank and random act of kindness, it doesn't specifically have to be a soldier, but I'm seeing a situation where somebody's following orders, somebody's doing what they're told, somebody's doing what they've been programmed to do, is the way it's coming through, which is very interesting. The idea of programming and I mean, this is not, we're not computers, but there are like CIA programming like things that they used to do, right? There's documents that are freely available now that talk about the stuff that the CIA used to get up to, and this idea of programming people into certain behaviors, certain habits, certain mindsets. Oh, societal conditioning. Sorry, I hear my guides like whispering in my ear. Societal conditioning. Let me Google that. Yes, it's a proper thing. It's come up. Societal conditioning, I'm reading the AI overview, forgive me, is the process by which individuals internalize and learn the norms, values, and behaviors approved by the society. There you go. That wasn't in my vocab, right? That wasn't in my lexicon that I was using. I'd probably have come across the term before. It's probably in my subconscious somewhere. But it's the perfect couple of words to describe what I was trying to describe. Social conditioning, the process by which individuals internalize and learn the norms and values and behaviors approved by the society, often without conscious awareness. And that was what I was talking about, conscious awareness, looking at yourself, questioning yourself, not just the world around you, but in like turning that microscope on yourself and being like, why do I think this? Why does that other person think differently to me? It's not about being right or wrong. It's about self-awareness. God, this is a super interesting reading. Really interested to see what this turns out to be, because all my readings turn out to be something. Like they're always spot on in the end. Leading to behaviors and beliefs that align with cultural expectations. Like I was getting loads of stuff about the Middle East in my last reading. That turned out to be something. The conditioning begins in childhood and is shaped by, and there's a funny thing, yeah, no, I won't talk about that. The condition begins in childhood and is shaped by various sources like family, media, and social interactions, influencing everything from self-image to career choices. While it fosters social cohesion, which is what I was saying, there's good things about it, it can also create barriers to authenticity, right? I was talking about creativity and authenticity before, and lead to negative impacts on mental health if individuals fail to meet societal standards. Boom, there you go. I should have, if they'd have just whispered that in my ear from the start, it would have saved us a whole hour of reading. I've not even gone to the card yet. So yeah, broke rank and random act of kindness. It's like somebody, it's very Capricorn energy. It's very much like, this is the box of who you're allowed to be. These are the corners, these are the walls of the way you're allowed to act, or the way you're allowed, these are the rules of your life. And somebody is breaking out of that and being like, it feels like a very spontaneous knee-jerk reaction to me as well. I can almost feel the energy of the person who's going to have this moment of being like, just going, just it's like walking out. And again, I don't know if, as you're reading this, and if you're the person who is feeling this energy, I don't want to tell you to do anything, right? The way my guides come through, it's almost like fated. Very rarely it's predictive. My readings come through as a prediction, and it's very, very rare that the prediction doesn't play out. So even though that song is caution, it's not that the guides are cautioning, it's that they're saying somebody is going to throw caution to the wind. And it feels so instinctive that I don't even think this person's thinking about it. I think they're just going to do it. So I don't think it matters whether I say that this is going to happen or it doesn't. It's just going to happen. But I'm not encouraging anyone to do anything that's going to get them in trouble, obviously. If you are literally following orders, it almost feels like the scenario that I'm seeing is, ICE, you see a lot of footage of them going around. Oh my God. I wonder, okay, I've only just realized if you look under the dragon, so we could literally be talking about that organization. It's interesting because the dragon's in reverse as well. I wonder if someone's breaking rank. It's like following your orders, doing your job, going arresting someone. Which again, I'm very disturbed by what I'm seeing online there. Sorry, you can probably hear there's a lot of building work going on at the moment, so I'm sorry about background noises. Maybe it's something that's going to happen at a building site or something, and it's like the person has something that they're doing, the person has their orders. It's kind of like, no matter what, this is what you do. And it's like they see something, and it's almost like maybe it's like a child or a woman, and it feels like it's something that goes against their values, right? It feels like it's something where who they are as a person, because it's almost like a choice, but it's not even, it feels like it's not even a choice. That's what I'm saying, because it feels instinctive. It's like this person's instinct is saying, protect the child, protect the woman. This is my job, but do you know what? My priorities are prioritizing that. So it's like someone breaks rank, right? It's like their instincts take over and they do what comes naturally, and their instinct is to protect the vulnerable, is the way it's coming through. I really want to know what this turns out to be. It just feels like, the way it feels, you can probably hear it in my voice, it feels like God. It feels like, because to me, God is goodness, right? And the devil is the one that constrains us. Freedom and goodness. So it's almost like the God consciousness comes in that moment, and nothing else matters, because you have to do the right thing, right? The right thing, the God voice, is so much of a higher priority than whatever rule a man has told you to do, right? Whatever rule your boss said, whatever someone wrote down on a piece of paper as a law. It's like, that's human. The God voice, the God consciousness, it's like there's no consideration, there's no thought. It's just the right thing that person must do. And it feels really good. It feels like breaking a shackle. And like the consequences don't even matter. What matters is doing the right thing in that moment, is the way it's coming through. And I really like it, because like I say, the devil chains us, and the devil creates laws, and the devil puts us in these little boxes, because that's how we're easy to control, right? The devil has control over the situation if everybody's following their orders and doing what we've prescribed them. But that chaos in the machine, that rebel, that instinct, that human moment is just so, it's like it wipes the board clean, because it inspires other people, right? Somebody looks at it and somebody sees it and they go, I know that was the right thing to do, and I know that I'd do the same thing in that situation. And if that situation comes up, I'm going to do the right thing. Because I think a lot of people, this is the thing, I think a lot of people who are joining that organization are not necessarily bad people, right? They want the money because, they've got their own families and their own mortgages and their own food bills. And that big signing bonus is just so tempting. And I think a lot of people do have the instinct to serve and protect, a lot of men especially. It's like they've been told that that's their job, to protect people. And so they like this glamorized idea of joining a force that is going to, follow the law and protect vulnerable people and arrest the bad guy. But I think a lot of time people get into these situations and then the reality of it hits, the reality of what they're doing, and the tears of the families and the human experience, and that's when the morals start to come into question. And then that's when they have a choice to make. But again, I don't think this person even, it's not even a choice, it's an instinct. It's overruled by who they are as a person on the inside. Okay. The next line on my notes is, do you know what love is? So there was a song called It's Me. And it keeps saying, it's on my Deep Sounds meditation playlist, but it keeps saying, do you know what love is? Do you know what love is? Do you know what love is? And then it goes, it's me. I'm love. Make of that what you will. And then realization, I'll come to that when we come to it. Okay. I needed to question this card. So when I pull my readings like this, it's always like a story that goes more and more into the future. And so I can always start off the reading and it makes perfect sense. And then the further into the future we get, the harder it is for me to read. So this reading particularly starts with the Ace of Water, which is a beautiful way for a reading to start because, I have to say as well, the second I started meditating and drawing on the energy for this reading, I was shown a pearl. It was almost like a pearl that was glowing on the inside. And then it's so funny that the first thing that should come out when I did the reading was this seahorse holding a pearl. There could be something, seahorses as well. I was thinking about kelpies at one point as well. So there could be something about seahorses, kelpies, again, back to the ocean. Almost looks like the prow of a ship, right? But the Ace of Water is a really beautiful card. It's unconditional love. It's the love that you're meant to feel when you think of God, right? It's kind of like, not I will love you if. I will love you if you do as you're told. So again, thinking about parenting, I will love you if you do your homework. I will love you if you do this, that, and the other. This is, I'll be disappointed if you do things that I don't want you to do, but I will still love you unconditionally. I will love you no matter what, and I will be here for you, and I will support you, even if you do the wrong thing. I might not condone it, right? I might encourage you to do the right thing, but I'm not going to disown you. So for me, God love, there is no hell. There is no burning in the eternal fires. There is no, it's not conditional. It's not conditional. It's extended to everyone, even the worst people, because for me, unconditional love is incredibly healing, and it's unconditional love with boundaries, I would say, is it's just so healing, and it's so transformative, and it's so it's redemption, right? So there is no, it's like if the rapture happened, we're all flying up in the air. No one's getting left behind, which I think is a very beautiful thing. It's like it's boundless. It's plentiful. The image that's normally on the Ace of Water is a cup that's overflowing. It never runs out. And so if you think of God as this abundant being, or if you think of God as abundant love, there's no short supply. There's enough for everyone, right? So it's like there's no need to quantify it or to portion it or ration it. There's as much as anyone could possibly need, right? It's boundless. So we start with this unconditional love, and it could be someone feels this way for a person, someone feels this way for their child or their loved one, or it could be as well, the Ace of Water can be about a new relationship. So somebody has a baby, there's a brand new relationship there, and it feels like God, right? It feels like that kind of divine love, or not, depending on, people have postpartum depression and things like this, but ideally, or, you get into a new relationship with somebody who feels like the one, and you feel that rush of, what is love? Love is this feeling, right? It's like serotonin and all that yummy good stuff when you feel love for someone. But then we go to pig spirit, it feels like he's up in the clouds. It's so funny. It's like, I don't know if this is representing someone's loved one. Maybe somebody really liked pigs, or you joked that somebody was a pig. Like, you know, like the NatWest pigs, the NatWest Bank. They used to, if you had a bank account as a child, they used to give you these little like pot pigs. Sir Nathaniel. It's a great propaganda for Sir Nathaniel and his family, whatever they were up to. Because, you know, bankers, you know, ugh, bankers never caused a problem for the greater collective in their lives. Never got bailed out by the government, you know. I'm not saying specifically in that West family. I don't know like how much their involvement was with the banking crisis, but yeah, just I studied like I say, I studied a lot of propaganda. Caesar Augustus, studied all his bullshit so deeply. Sorry, my battery ran out and I had to recharge my phone for a moment, but it actually gave me time with this card, so the message came through a little bit more and I understand what needs to be communicated with it now. You remember when I was talking about people who are intelligent, whether you've had a formal education or not, right? Critical thinking skills are learned through a lot of different ways. You don't necessarily have to have like a master's degree to have critical thinking skills. You know, some people are taught it by the parents. So, excuse me, whoever this reading is for, with it be this pig being on a cloud, it's like, excuse me, so sorry. It's like they're above there could be something with somebody's, so this is my, this is like my throat chakra, but also like my chest. So your heart and your throat, somebody wanting to express something from the heart, but maybe having some difficulty expressing something. So the pig spirit being upon the cloud, you know, I was talking about like the higher perspective, somebody who has a more informed overview of a situation. I was getting this feeling of like the people down below kind of panicking. So the common belief or the common knowledge or the common it feels like scaremongering, right? It feels like almost like the common opinion of the people, whatever this means, feels a little bit worked up about something. And, you know, it's very easy to whip a population into a frenzy. You know, newspapers do this all the time with like scary articles. It's always, the rapture's coming. Oh no, apples are really bad for your health. Wait, it's okay. Apples are fine. We just scared you with that article last week. Oh no, this celebrity's done something awful. Oh, there's meteors falling from the skies. Aliens. You know, it's always something with the bloody news. And some of it's, you know, we're right to be concerned about it, but I think a lot of the time they distract us from the thing that we should be concerned about with some celebrity garbage or, you know, some daft article about somebody doing something stupid with a flag or something. It's like, you know, things that don't really matter, but then they're drawing our attention away from what really matters. So it's like the collective is in a frenzy about something, is the way this is coming through down below. But this one has a higher perspective, possibly because they're in charge of something, right? They are, because this says stag spirit take the lead. So it could be somebody who's in a leadership position or who has some kind of more information or more knowledge about something, right? But when people are kind of in a frenzy, they're not in the mood to listen to reason necessarily. And sometimes if you have a different opinion, even if it's valid and even if you're trying to give more information, like, you know, if everybody's like, cancel that thing, the sky's falling, and you're like, the sky's not falling because physics. You know, they might be like, you work for the evil sky demons. And you'll be like, I don't work for the evil sky demons. And they're like, but you have a different opinion from us, so you're the bad guy. And do you know what people can be like, especially when they kind of like a group of people get very worked up about something. It's like they want an echo chamber. They want they don't want to listen to reason when they're having an emotional reaction. So the reason why this pig spirit says use your mind wisely is you do know more. You do have extra information about a situation. It does feel very, very, very good, right? Because it's coming with the Ace of Water. There's love. There's a very emotional offer. Something feels really good. It's logical as well because it's use your mind wisely. It's like, no, this makes sense. This is literally God's love. Why wouldn't this make sense? But everybody's like, I don't know. I don't know what the situation is, so it's hard to kind of give examples if I'm not given any through the spirit. But hopefully it makes sense to someone. It normally does. When I realize what something is and I watch it back, uh, even though I think I'm talking absolute bullshit when I'm saying it, like when I watch it back, I'm like, oh, that made exact sense. And a lot of the time I'm like, I'm glad I didn't know what I was talking about because I wouldn't have put that reading up if I did know what I was talking about, you know? But yeah, so this idea of it's almost like when pigs might fly. It's something other people find unbelievable, even though you know it. It's kind of, if you went back in time and you showed a medieval peasant an aeroplane, like they wouldn't know what to make of that, right? They wouldn't necessarily be able to fully comprehend what was happening. They might think it was magic or witchcraft, because magic and witchcraft is just the things we haven't explained yet. It's the science we haven't figured out yet. So this feels like some kind of higher knowledge that someone has. I'm going to say you because it's who the reading's for, right? The you that is the intended person that the reading's talking about, whether that is the you or a different you. Yeah, so it's like you're taking the lead, but you're going to have to be very, very smart about this because there is some unrest, there is some panic, right? And I want to say whoever's taking this lead, they are doing it from a very good place. Now, the incredible thing is after, and I don't set these cards up, right? I shuffle cards, whatever comes out, I put in together in a pile. I've got loads of different decks. I put all the cards back together once they've come out from their separate decks, and then I reshuffle, and that's how I get the order of the reading. So after Stag Spirit, I didn't pick any of these cards. After Stag Spirit comes Power. And after power comes purpose. Power and purpose. Yes, it's a shark. I don't know. Maybe it's somebody who works in some kind of business field. You've got to be a bit of a shark, right? It's like everybody's a shark in this game. So, I'm also a shark. But there's something about the transformation of the shark. Also, the story attached to this card is this girl who swims with sharks and she's very safe with them. I'm not encouraging anyone to go swimming with sharks, but there's almost like a familiarity and a protection. Like this specific person is safe in this environment. She's been accepted by this family of sharks, basically. So take the lead with power and purpose. I feel like somebody, because they do have a good mind, right? Use your mind wisely. They do have critical thinking skills, perhaps. They do have a strategy. It feels very Aquarian energy, like King of Swords energy. It's like you can take the lead with power and purpose. It's like somebody has a direction, right? This isn't somebody like if I was in power, I'd be awful because I'm a Libra. I've got so much Libra in my chart. I weigh up things in my mind too much. I find it hard to make decisions because it takes me so long to think things through. But this feels more like almost like Emperor Aries energy as well, where it's kind of like I know the direction. We have a plan. We're going to go in that direction because that's the plan, right? I've got purpose and I have the power to make it happen. And I'm taking the lead. So this is good. It could be somebody who's getting promoted into a position of power. They have a purpose. They have a strategy for a company, something like that. What's interesting down here is we have self-reflection and vanishing mirror side by side. So you can see the mirror on this card. It's almost like, especially with use your mind wisely. So this feels like somebody coming into a position of power or a position of leadership who is self-reflective, right? They are not, they're not leading from a place of ego. Some people get into power and they go on a power trip and it's kind of like, do it because I said so. And it's kind of like, but that's not logical. Oh, God, I've been in like so many situations like this. Like, you could have a manager, and this doesn't have to be a big business. It could be a small situation. It could be a workplace, but you have a manager and they're kind of like, right, this is the strategy. I've had it where I used to work for a shop, right? Literally a clothes shop, but it's quite a big one. And we would do floor moves, right? We'd change the layout. And, sometimes the manager would be like, we're doing a layout change. And I'd be like, that doesn't make sense, right? Because the amount of work and effort that would go into changing a layout, and then you have to re-merchandise to make everything look good. And then it'd be like, but we're getting a new layout next week. So we could do all this week, and then the new layout will come next week, and we would have to do it all over again. So you're not getting a head start on it. You're just making us do a job twice, right? It doesn't make sense because the store will be a mess for a week for no reason, and we might have to possibly redo it. So it's kind of like I'm applying logic here to you just randomly pulling something out of your ass. So, you know, it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like that kind of power trippy person. It feels like somebody who is like, I'm on a power trip and I want you to do something on a whim. This feels more like somebody who's like, because it starts with the Ace of Water and because purpose is there, it feels like somebody who has a clear, it's a clear purpose, but it's coming from the heart, right? It's like, how do I voice this strategy that's coming from the heart? So it could be something that's very good for the business. It could be something that is, I don't know why it's coming through like business, like it's putting the people first, something like this. It could definitely be something about Aquarius in Mars placements as well. That kind of came up the other day with something where Aquarius in Mars, Mars is all about how you take action, the reason why you do something, right? It can also be about anger, what makes you angry, but this is talking more about purpose. So it's like the reason why, what motivates you, why do you do something? Now Aquarius energy is all about the people. It puts people first, right? It's not about the power in the hands of the few. It's collective action, it's social cohesion, it's valuing people. Aquarius is a very, very philanthropic energy, a very idealistic energy. And so this heart purpose that's coming through, somebody could have that Mars Aquarius placement. But not necessarily, they don't have to, but I'm associating it with this people first strategy that seems to be coming through. Because with self-reflection, it's kind of like, this is the kind of leader that questions themselves, right? They could take on feedback, they could take on criticism and really apply it to themselves and really, really consider it. It's not somebody who's defensive and saying, no, I'm perfect, my strategy's great. It's kind of like, wait, am I being a bit of a dictator? Am I though? Why did they say that? And like, it doesn't mean that they're going to take it at face value. And they're not kind of the sort of person who, their opinion of their self is dictated by what other people say. This is the sort of person of like, try it on, see if it fits. Like, hang on, that person criticized me. Is there any value to what they said? Is there something that I can learn from what they said? Is there a growth opportunity here with this? Or is this criticism coming from a silly place with them? Is it valid or not? Right? I'm gonna try it on for size with this. But then with the vanishing mirror and ego sublimation, it's not like to smash the mirror and say, I'm going to do what I want. It feels more that this person is smashing through a glass ceiling, smashing through some kind of limit. And it does feel like it's something to do with like the judgment of others, right? It's kind of like, I'm hearing best foot forward. It's kind of like, I'm gonna move on with this. And I understand that there's criticisms. I understand that, and I understand the criticisms. I understand where the criticisms are coming from. And I'm not ignoring them, but I'm moving past them is the way it's coming through. It's almost like being able to see 5 steps down the road, right? So, okay, they're showing me Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase Family Vacation, or whatever it's called, National Lampoon's Family Vacation. It's not coming through quite like that, right? I think my guides sometimes make a bit of a joke with me. But say, for example, you have a dad, and this dad has the map. Okay, and this dad is an excellent map reader, right? They know exactly where they're going. They know exactly how long it'll take to get there. They know exactly all the obstacles that the family's going to need to go through. But the family don't have the map. So the family are going, why are you taking us this way? Like, surely that way's the better way to go. So they're criticizing the dad, but the dad has the map, right? And so it's somebody who's more informed is the way it's coming through. They're just giving me an example to how to explain it. So somebody can see the bigger picture. They can see they can see where this is heading, and they can see all the stops along the way. So the family, the kids can't read maps for some reason. I don't know why. So they have it's kind of like they're trusting the dad, but they're also criticizing because they don't know any better. They think they know better, but they don't. They're not as informed. So it's a situation where that person, and it doesn't have to be a dad with a map, you know, maybe the mum's better at reading maps, but the person in charge who has the map, who has the strategy, who has the plan, who can see where this is going, right? Because they're more informed. They're going to the kids and they're going to the family. They're saying, I understand why you think that. Based on what you know, based on what you can see, based on the information that you have, yes, it feels like I'm doing the wrong thing here. But trust me, I have a bigger plan. I have a long-term strategy, and this is the right way to go, right? I have more knowledge. So, and like, you're taking the lead, not from a place of ego where it's like, I know best, I'm the dad, I'm, you know, follow me, I'm the person who makes the decisions. It's not like that. It's like, trust me, this is the way that we have to go because I have more information than you. So, yeah, but it's not dismissing what they're saying. It's like, I understand why you feel that way. And it doesn't feel like sharing the information there. It feels more like, trust me. Now, wild woman and power, again, it doesn't feel like necessarily male or female. Again, this idea of like the heart, there's something that feels very, very almost incendiary, but impassioned from the heart space. Wild woman. There could be something that looks very wild to other people. There could be something that looks, it's kind of like that woman out there swimming with the sharks. What does she think she's doing? The sharks are dangerous. It's like somebody looks kind of crazy, but they're not. It's like again, you know, I was talking about that knee-jerk reaction before, where it's kind of like, I'm throwing caution to the wind. I'm going to do something because I have to do it, is the way it's coming through. From a heart space, especially because it's in alignment with, it's like it's in alignment with the God. And I think that can be a very dangerous thing to say. I think a lot of people do things in the name of God that are very destructive and wrong. It's almost like following a false God. But for me, you have to remember, in my reading, God is, when I talk about that God energy, that unconditional love energy, it's only good. It would never hurt, it would never abuse, it would never restrict, it would never attack. It's revolutionary love, right? So it's kind of like, an example would be, you know, in Les Miserables, if you've ever watched that movie, I don't know the play as much, like the script, but in the movie version of it, there's that priest, and even though the guy is clearly a bit of a ne'er-do-well, the priest invites him into his home. And I'm not suggesting anyone do this, because obviously this can be a very dangerous thing to do, but in this storytelling example, the priest invites him into his home and he steals the candlesticks and leaves. And it's almost like the priest knew he was going to do that, and he allows it because he recognizes that these things are just items, right? These are just candlesticks. They're just decorative. You know, they serve a bit of a purpose. They hold the candles, but maybe you could stick them in a cup or something. It doesn't have to be a gold candlestick. And so he lets him take them because he's like, I know that person is desperate and I know he needs them in this moment, right? It's like, God led him to me. I trust, right? Is that he's a very divine man, and it's coming from this place of generosity and love. And then I think at the end he goes back and like either thanks him or returns this, you know, candlesticks or something like that. But I think in the story he's like the good man who's in a desperate situation. So again, it's this feeling of like somebody who's doing something that looks crazy, it looks wild, it looks it's so against the rules, right? This person must be crazy, but it's like God's working through that person in a way. And then especially because in the middle of Wild Woman and the Vanishing Mirror, it's almost like I don't care what people think of me, especially because beauty fell off the table. Do you remember I said, I don't even know where that's gone now. Beauty fell off the table. It's almost like I don't care that I don't have makeup on. I don't care that people are so used to seeing me with an Instagram filter. I'm human and I'm real, right? And I'm going to smash that glass ceiling and I'm going to do what I want to do. And if someone wants to say, you can't do that, you're not beautiful enough, I'm going to say, watch me fucking dance, bitch. So the interesting thing about that Hunchback of Notre Dame musical that I was seeing on TikTok, Esmeralda, I mean, she was banging. The actress playing Esmeralda, it was a larger woman. And you know, in the movie, obviously, she's very, very, very young and slim. But this woman comes out and she's doing her belly dancing and she's smiling and she's vivacious and flamboyant, and she is absolutely ruling the stage, right? She is the center of attention. So there's something about owning it, owning who you are, and confidence being very beautiful here. Um, this kind of looks like same face syndrome to me. You know how everybody, there's like a I watched, I'm sorry to keep bad mouthing like the Kardashians, but I don't like the way they promote insecurity or the way they capitalize on insecurity. It's like they create an insecurity and then capitalize on it, and I don't think that's healthy for young girls. One of, I don't know which one's which, Kylie Kendall, who's the one that had like the lipstick brand, I think it was her. um there was, I don't even know whose wedding it was. It was some short that popped up on my feed, and they were bridesmaids, so it was one of the Kardashians, Hailey Bieber, and some other girl who I couldn't tell them apart. I was like, I couldn't tell you because they were obviously all. I've got face blindness, right? I find it hard to recognize people in the first place. But they were all wearing the same dress because they were all bridesmaids, and they're all like smiling and laughing and running together. And people in the comments are like, oh, that one's so beautiful. Oh, she's really beautiful. And I was like, they all literally look the fucking same to me. Like, I couldn't tell them apart. I'd be like, look over there. If I was a man, right? I'd be like, look, there's a gaggle of pretty girls over there with no discernible personality. Oh, like, give me someone who's a character. Give me someone who I'm going to be able to fucking recognize in a crowd, you know? So I don't know. I like this. I like the idea of like smashing through the glass ceiling of expectations on beauty. And just, you know, doing your crazy wild dance with your hair flowing and just be who you are. You know, I think confidence is more attractive than keeping small. And I don't know. I don't want to attract the kind of man who is attracted to meek, submissive, closed mouth, insecure women. Like, I'm like, do you know what? If we don't attract each other, I think I'm good with that. Like, you know, you want to attract, and it doesn't have to be romantic either. It's like friends or whatever. Like, you know, the people around you, you want them to love you for who you are. You want them to love you for your personality and your opinions and your, you know, your crazier aspects. You know, you want people to love you for your humanity, not because you look like some doll off a production line. And that goes for men too. You know, you want someone who loves you for who you are, you know, warts and all almost. And that doesn't mean you tolerate bad behavior. That means you love unconditionally with strong boundaries, right? I love you, but I don't want you to come around to my house when you're drunk, that sort of thing. So yeah, where am I going with this? I don't know. The next thing that comes through is this, there's this standstill moment. So somebody has a clear strategy. They're willing to take the lead, and they're willing to break through some kind of glass ceiling or social construct that was previously a barrier to them, where they were comparing themselves to others, and they're breaking through that. But there is this moment of enjoy this space while you're in it. Take a moment to breathe and look back, because we have be here now with hummingbird spirit. There's a huge amount of potential. This feels like Queen of Fire energy, or even King of Fire energy, where there's an explosion, right? Someone's got a fire lit under their ass. Somebody's really got a lot of either creative energy, a huge amount of creative ideas. You know, that moment where everything's flowing and, you know, you're in the zone of some kind of creative moment where you're full of ideas, you want to get going. It's kind of like you've got your foot on the accelerator, but it's kind of like put the brake on, hold it, hold this energy in this moment. Be here now with it, right? Let it percolate almost. They're showing me they're showing me a teapot with I can see inside the teapot, and you know, like if you put a tea bag in a teapot for like a second and pull it out, that tea's going to be really weak. It's like, let it stew, let these ideas stew for a minute, let that tea get really strong. And it's like, trust this moment. So there is this moment of like being, it's almost like breaking through one gate and then getting stuck behind another. It's kind of like you're in this in-between space, this purgatory. And so with trusting divine detours, Coyote Spirit looking back, and the sorcerer here looking back, because it's like she really wants to go forward, but it's like, stop, turn around, look back. And here's the rainbow, right? Here's that moment where, you know, she, I don't know who the reading's for again. It could be for multiple people. There's this moment of like looking back, and checking your perspective. It's coming through like, now you're on the other side of something. Look back and reevaluate what you thought before. So you saw something through a lot of different angles before, but now you're on the other side of it. So now you can look back and shine a light through in the other direction and check it from this angle too. So it's kind of like seeing something from even, you saw things through multiple perspectives on one side. So it's like you saw everything from this side while you were here, but now it's kind of like turn back and look at it, whatever the situation was, through this side as well. Understand all the angles of whatever that was that you've passed through. She's looking at have faith in your dreams, right? Because she's very excited, she's very creative, she's got a lot of dreams. So it's kind of like, reevaluate your dreams. So she, whoever this is, and I'm saying she, but she, he, they, whoever, however it resonates, this person who felt so motivated here, who took the lead, who had all this power and purpose, and who did all this self-reflection, coming through this moment where they have this dream and they have all this excitement and they have all these plans, and then they come to the other side of this, and then it's like, turn back around right now and look at it from this direction. And it's almost like, check it before you move forward with the sorcerer, because it's kind of like the sorcerer is like the tea percolating. It's like this strong brew of potential that is going to be very powerful moving forward. And then we do move forward. I'm just going to move this all over a little bit like this. We do move forward because we go into the Fool energy, and she's still looking back, which is really interesting. It's almost like she's calling all these characters forward who are, you know, if you look at all these characters who are facing in that direction, it's like you were called over here by, it's like, this is where that sense of purpose came from. This one that was like blowing the trumpet. We're not talking about the rapture, by the way. It's kind of like you were redirected by this calling, which again feels, because it's like the ace of, it's almost like God on the, I don't want to say it's anything to do with like life and death. It feels like it's something that someone's doing, or a process that somebody's going through, where it's like it resonated with them. Like they knew this was the right thing for them because it resonated with them. Like they could feel that God energy, right? They could feel there was nothing bad about this. It was only excitement and love and purpose and empowerment, right? They felt God in it, is the way it's coming through. And God, when I speak about God in my readings, if you are not religious, if you're like, I'm not Christian, I don't believe in God, that's okay. I'm talking about more of an energy. So it's something that feels so right. It feels so divine. It feels so in alignment with you that it feels almost fated, or it speaks to your heart, is the way that I would put it in non-religious terms. Because, you know, they are blowing that trumpet. They're blowing the trumpet from the judgment card. And again, it's this thing about like the music is right, or it sounds right. Excuse me a sec. Hey, sorry, I'm just sitting back down in my own little world. So yeah, so whatever this thing is, like, it's calling you to this place. And then with Be Here Now and Trust in Divine Detours, there could be something where you find yourself at home. So maybe, like in COVID, we all got furloughed, right? Or, a lot of us had to just stay at home and couldn't go to work, or, couldn't go and see people. It's kind of like everybody was stuck at home. Not everybody, obviously, some people had to still go into work. Like key workers and stuff, but it's almost like some downtime in some sort of way, even if it's not actual home. It's like um there's a period before you can get going on the next stage of this. There's this sort of, it's not stagnant because it feels more like percolating, right? It feels more like a building up of something, in a good way. It's kind of like something's getting stronger before moving on to whatever the next thing is. So again, it could be a situation where you find yourself at home for a little while. Maybe you've got some time off. Maybe you're between jobs. Maybe you're just on vacation or something, and you've in a hotel room for a couple of weeks. I don't know what this is. But with the Queen of it is probably home, because the Queen of Earth is here, and then with Comfort and Hearth, it just feels like a very warm room, right? It feels like it doesn't feel like being stuck in it. It feels like it could be perspective. Excuse me a sec. So it could be perspective. It could be glass half full, glass half empty. Oh, I'm stuck at home. Or do you know what? I'm going to make the most of this. I'm going to redecorate while I'm here. It's kind of really enjoying that space, feeling very comfortable in it, feeling like you have everything you need as well. Because the Queen of Earth, I mean, even if the Queen of Earth is short of funds, she's normally quite wealthy. She's normally very, very comfortable because she's very good at handling money. And I say she, doesn't have to be a female. The character of the Queen of Earth is somebody who's very nurturing. Somebody could have a baby, so this could be somebody who's on maternity leave, for example. So it's kind of like, I really want to get going in the workplace, but I need to take this maternity leave in order to recover from pregnancy. So do you know what? I'm going to enjoy this time that I have with my newborn child. But the Queen of Earth is very nurturing, very capable. She is kind of that Mother Mary energy of I'm going to make sure everybody's comfortable. I'm going to make sure everybody's well fed. I'm going to make sure the temperature's right. I'm going to make sure, everybody's, got clean clothes. Everybody's needs are cared for on a physical basis with the Queen of Earth. She doesn't necessarily give us much in terms of like emotion or, I don't know, she might not be the best at conversation, or she might not be the best at, you know, she might not be the most passionate, but she makes sure that you're well fed. She makes sure that you're comfortable. So very, very practical, the Queen of Earth. She may be all those other things as well, but she's showing up here as the Queen of Earth. So this can actually also indicate a wife or a mother or a business partner, but she's definitely connected to something. She's not single. She's not on her own. I mean, she might be single, but she could be connected to a business. There is some kind of connection that she has, and she's coming in as connected to this home space, right? This or homely space. It could even be a boss who makes the office feel very, very comfortable. She makes sure everybody has comfortable chairs. She makes sure that there's, I don't know, a food guy that comes around the office a couple of times a day. There's a coffee machine. Everybody's got their needs met in that office space, and it's very comfortable. People enjoy being there. It feels like home. So yeah, the Queen of Earth is very nurturing in whatever this environment is. The Fool's interesting though. The Fool indicates a fresh start. It indicates something very new, something that's just getting off the ground is the way I'm hearing it. So the Fool is this fresh start. So again, it could be like the new office with the new boss. But I feel like this is very Capricorn energy, by the way. So somebody could have strong Capricorn in the chart. With Take the Lead and the Queen of Earth and them having these stag horns, I am connecting, and they're on the same row as well. So I am connecting this to be, it's coming through like the boss, right? The boss. This is where it gets tricky. It's always at the end of the reading where I kind of lose what this means. So we'll explore this together. But with the Fool energy, we have beginnings, which makes perfect sense, right? The Fool energy, Aries energy, it's a fresh start. It's a new experience. There's a lot of potential in it, especially because it comes with the hummingbird. It's like there's so much room for potential, right? There it's brimming with opportunity, whatever this is. And then something that is going east in some sort of way, like the compass point is pointing east. And then like, but then we have, this is where it gets a little bit confusing, focus with cat sith. Now cat sith is not necessary. It's interesting, we've got cats and dogs here as well. I don't know, maybe somebody's working with cats and dogs in some sort of way. But the cat sith is not necessarily a good figure, but I read it as good. It's strange. This is going to mythology where if somebody passed away, they would be, you would have to guard them. You would have to guard the body in case the cat sith came, right? But I see the cat sith as the guardian because I see black cats as guardian energy. Focus with cat sith, we'll explore that more in a second. And then we have realization with this big keyhole. So it really does feel, especially because we have all this opportunity moving in this new direction, and then this kind of like almost like unlocking a space. Again, it could be something about moving home, or it's 3-3 as well. 3 talks about community, so this is not something that somebody's doing a lot alone. There's a community that's moving in this new direction. And then realization, we'll explore the end of that reading in a second. I want to talk about the underlying first, though, before we do, because the underlying of this reading is saying a very, very similar thing. You have, luck is on your side, new moon in Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius energy is that energy of doing something without a lot of thought because it feels right. It's intuitive, it's instinctive. It's kind of like jumping up out of your seat and just doing it. Because you know that it has to be done, right? It's kind of like, I've got an itch and I need to scratch it. Is Sagittarius energy. But it's like luck is on your side. So Jupiter, I think Jupiter rules Sagittarius. Jupiter is the planet of luck. This is Zeus energy, right? It's kind of like expansion, opportunity. And then this thing about the aim is true as well. It's kind of like, this is the right direction. I know this is where I'm heading. I have power. I have purpose. I have a sense of direction. The direction is east, is the way that that's coming through. I'm also seeing a time for healing, which feels more like this period. There is a lot of stress with this. I think a lot of the stress is coming through the brakes being applied, because underneath that is patience. So I think this is where this comes in. It's almost like somebody getting in their own head or being very, very overwhelmed by all the thoughts and ideas. I think this is why the time is needed. It's almost like Libra energy coming in and applying the brakes. It's like, no, we're not making a decision until we've looked at this from every single angle. We're not making a decision until we've really, really inspected each of these components, because when we get moving, it's going to move really fast. And if we make a mistake now, we're going to be going down the road in the wrong direction, right? And, you know, there's going to be a lot of kind of redrawing of the map. It's going to be a problem if we don't get this right now. So the reason why we're applying the brakes now is because we want this to be, oh, I can smell my son making toast. It smells really good. He's had 2 teeth removed today, bless him. He's kind of happy because he's off school. Sorry, I'm just side note. But he had 2 baby teeth that didn't get pushed out by his adult teeth. So and he doesn't wiggle his teeth either. You know, lots of kids will really, I couldn't leave my teeth alone once they got wiggly. I was like, I couldn't stop faffing with them. He doesn't do that, and it's crazy to me. It's like, how can you not wriggle your teeth? But yeah, so he ended up with these 2 baby teeth that were behind his adult teeth. And last time we went for a checkup, the dentist was like, look, we've got to remove them. They're gonna have to come out. And so I was a bit worried about it, but he was really brave. He didn't care. And yeah, the dentist got them out with no issues whatsoever. But now he has, you know, the recovery of it. So he did have 2 teeth removed. So they are, you know, he's got 2 holes in his mouth. There's a bit, it's bleeding a little bit. It's stopped bleeding now, thankfully. It was a few hours ago, but his face is still puffy and numb. He said it could last between 2 and 5 hours, this numbness, but he's really hungry. And I was like, I don't think you should eat yet. So then we're talking about what he can eat. And I'm like, okay, a piece of toast, very lightly toasted, very heavily buttered, cut the crust off, eat it on the other side of your mouth and eat it slowly and carefully. So yeah. Anyway, I was encouraging him to wait, but he was like, no, I'm going to make myself a piece of toast. I was like, if you wait until I'm done with the reading, I'll come and make it for you. Okay, so anyway, yeah, this feels like the tea bag, right? This feels like the tea bag in the kettle going round and round and round. It's like, no, this is good. You don't want to take the tea bag out too soon because your tea is going to be weak. It's not going to be satisfying. So let it percolate, let it get really rich and strong. So it's this process of like all the ideas, and it's stressful, right? It's especially especially if you are a person who likes to get on with things. If you're the sort of person who's like, stop overthinking, let's just go and do it. But you're forced into this, it's like a think tank or a, what's the word for it? Like a, like a brainstorming energy. It's like a focus group. So again, there's a group aspect. So it could be some kind of like team brainstorming exercise, and somebody's just kind of like, let's just pick one, let's just go. But there is this, it's kind of like, this is stressful, this is too much to think about, but it's like, let the analytical people do the thinking, right? So it feels like within this team there could be the people who, this is what they're really good at. I'm this person, I'm the person that's like, I've always got 20 ideas spinning around in my head, and I'm constantly doing this jigsaw puzzle with them. I'm like, does this fit with this, does this fit with this? How, like, let's get the big picture first before we move. I'm the Libra, right? I'm like all about the thinking. So yeah, it's like, because it's like, be here now and trust in divine detours. The person who's more Sagittarius energy, the person who's more of a like, let's just do it energy, like, let's get going on this, that person's the one that's asked to slow down, enjoy the moment. It's almost like enjoy the time out, right? It's like, don't stress out, be patient, let the people who do this and who are good at this, right? Because she's perfectly fine. She's like, she is not bothered. She's even got wings on her head. So it's like she's trying each one on for size. It's like she's putting the crown on. I'm seeing the birds as crowns, and like listening to what their thoughts. So it could be the person who is like data analytical, right? So some people are like, their whole thing is like, um, taking in all the data and analyzing it, and then coming to a conclusion and presenting that to the boss. So it's kind of like the boss is like, I want to get going, but right, I'm going to give you 2 weeks, go and do your thing. And then this person's like, okay, let me take all these different opinions, let me take all these different feedback surveys, let me take all these different sources of information that we have, and let me compile my report, right? So this person's compiling the report, and then the other person feels like they're the one being very, very patient. This is Sagittarius energy again. This is air sign energy. We have transformation is beautiful. So again, there is something that is transforming. Embrace look at that as well. Embrace the in-between. And there's the vulture. Okay, this is interesting. I'm going to come to that in a second. So butterfly spirit transformation is beautiful. Embrace the in-between. So this downtime, which is almost feels like this is where you are now, like trusting the divine detours. It's like you're about to step into the downtime. Enjoy it. Enjoy this. Like, enjoy this moment of like peace and rest before it all starts going again, is the way that that's coming through. Vulture spirits, sometimes nothing is wasted. Sometimes life stings, and think on your feet with the fox. And then sweet results await. Okay, something's transforming. Take a leap of faith. So there is a sting moment. There is a moment where, because when something ends, right, because something new is beginning here, all the focus does seem to be on the new. Like somebody's really ready to get going on this new thing. When there's a new beginning, something has to end, right? So the end, there's some pain around that. I don't know what the end is, that they're not talking about it, but clearly there was one. Nothing is wasted, along with, like, I love that the vultures come back, because we understand the vulture better. Because do you remember I was saying, like, it's like the dragons in the reverse. It's like they're not the bad guy, right? It's like somebody who seems like they're the bad guy, but they're not the bad guy, right? They're doing something with really good intentions, is the way it's coming through. They might be associated with bad guys. It's sort of like the good CEO is the way it's coming through. It's something like, just because you've known 10 CEOs and they've all been horrible doesn't mean that the next one's going to be horrible. This one might be the good guy. It's coming through like that. But this vulture spirit, nothing's wasted. I feel like this almost going back to that thing of like, breaking something apart, and utilizing all the parts. It's not liquidation. It's like, something ended, there's no need for that anymore. So we're going to make sure when we break this thing down, because it's no longer fit for purpose, everything's going to get recycled or repurposed or upcycled, and everything's going to go somewhere. Like the jigsaw puzzle is just going to be a different jigsaw puzzle, but everything's going to be utilized, right? Nothing's wasted. So the vulture spirit seems to be somebody who's it's going through like not an accountant. What are these people called who, the people who get called into a business to analyze everything? What are they called? It happens sometimes when a business is struggling. Sometimes they get people to come in and analyze all the accounts, and optimize the flow. It feels a little bit like that. Like nobody wants those people to come in. Everybody gets a little bit kind of like worried about it. Like, what are they going to find? What are they going to analyze my stuff? Have I done anything wrong? So it's like they're not the good guy. They're not popular, but they have a purpose, right? They have something to do, and they feel like they're actually going to be very, very good at doing this. And they don't feel unfair is the way it's coming through, because especially because a lot of the signs say there's something good on the other side of this, like with sweet results await. So with like the wasp spirit, with sometimes life stings, it's kind of like it hurts that thing has ended. It hurts to let that go. And the process doesn't feel great either, of this thing breaking down and reforming. Just like with the butterfly. Okay, so butterfly, with something, sometimes life stings, embrace the in-between. The transformation is beautiful, but it can be painful. The butterfly, when it turns from a caterpillar into a butterfly, breaks down into kind of like a soup. It's like a DNA soup. And I don't know if the creature feels pain, but it sounds painful. So but then it feels really good on the other side of it, because then you have beginner's mind with fire underneath. Oh, it's like, oh my God, it's the greatest thing. I love this card. So beginner's mind, first breath. Again, there's absolutely a new start here. All this fire is pure creativity. It's pure potential, which we saw here. And then corn is the best thing you could possibly think of. It's corn. It's a great lump with knobs. It's got the juice. I can't imagine a more beautiful thing. It's the meme. So it doesn't have to be corn, right? But it's something that is like your favorite thing. It's like the best thing. Like the thing you wanted is there. The circle underneath that is kind of like all hands on deck. Electricity, hunger, and trust. Yeah, somebody's really being called to trust this process. Yeah, there's definitely transformation. Okay, I'm going to come to that in a sec. So electricity, wildness, excuse me. Sorry about that. So wildness, electricity, it feels really good. It feels really like Queen of Wands energy. I feel like there's multiple people here in this situation. You've got this person taking the lead, who seems to have, it's like they've got the whole map. You've got the person who's doing the analytical stuff, like this person who's very logical. They're doing the whole data processing aspect. And then you have somebody here as well, and it could all be aspects of the same person, but this person who's like so eager to get started, because this doesn't feel quite like the same person. This feels like somebody who's a bit more down to earth and practical and patient. And then this person who's like the wild woman feels really Queen of Wands. This feels like the person who's full of the creative ideas. This person feels like they really are the potential, right? They really are the I'm getting like milk, like like milking a cow, but that feels derogatory in a way. But it's almost like there's so much that this person can give. Like they are pure, pure ideas, pure passion, pure creation energy. It could just be talking about the process as well, though. Feels really, really, really good. And then like hunger, just this absolute like, just there's something about like this person really, sometimes when I connect with that God energy, that source energy, I get these downloads where I go into this almost creative frenzy, right? It's like I just get all these ideas, I get all these downloads. So whatever that is for you, whoever this person is, the creative process where they tap into that pure creation energy. The Fool as well is the same energy. So like Aries, Sagittarius, Leo, very fire sign energy. They're all ideas, right? They're all excitement, possibility, options, and they've got a real hunger for it. Like, I want to say they enjoy this. It's like what they live for almost. And then under that as well, synergy, chimera. I want to say this is all those people, because there's definitely three, right? We saw three here. It's like these three people, and it doesn't have to be three. Three symbolizes community, right? Different people coming together with all these different aspects to create something new. So I'm seeing it as a combination of like those three different energies. The leadership, Queen of Pentacles energy, the kind of earth grounded practical energy, the person who sees the whole map and makes things happen, the wild woman energy, who's this like fire creative, maybe literally the creatives, artists, designers, the strategists with the Nine of Air, the people who compile the data, they analyze the ideas, they analyze the discussions, they create the report, that intelligence energy. It feels like it works really, really well together. It's all part of the same creature. And there's something about like transformation is beautiful. It's something about almost like, do you know, have you seen that new FKA Twigs video where she takes all the different parts of all the different women and then she becomes a monster? It's kind of like illumination, realization. There is a realization that it says synergy, right? It works well together, but they're all very different. I don't want to say that anyone's created a monster. It's making me think of Frankenstein again, which is very, there's like a Frankenstein film, I think, coming up. Crocodile and dragon. Crocodile and dragon. So there is something waiting, like the dragon's waiting for this. Right, hang on. What's the realization? Lion. There's that, like, leadership, like the head of the pride, the head of the family. There is some ego there with that. The ego's back. Realization. Somebody could have an ego. It's giving North Node Leo as well. North Node is this if somebody's North Node Leo, this person has some resistance to being in charge. They're not being a leader does not necessarily come naturally for them, because South Node is your comfort zone. If someone's South Node Leo, they're a natural leader. If North Node Leo, they have to move out of their comfort zone, but their destiny is to be in this energy. So this is somebody who's destined to lead, but they don't feel comfortable with it. It's not necessarily someone who's destined to lead. It could be somebody who is destined to be in the spotlight, or to have followers, or to embody that Leo energy. Basically, it's somebody who's destined to have people follow them in some sort of way, but it doesn't feel entirely comfortable or natural to them. Depending on their other placements, they could be Sun sign Leo as well, which means it would come much more naturally. If they had something like Lilith Leo, then it would feel particularly difficult. I'm South Node Capricorn, which is my comfort zone, but I'm also Lilith Capricorn. So there's this real kind of love-hate relationship I have with Capricorn energy within myself, where it's my comfort zone, but also I feel guilty about my comfort zone. It's kind of like, oh, I don't know. It's complicated to explain. Let me see. What else do I want to do? There was another deck that I wanted to use. Yeah, let me go to Kim Kranz. Let me get a conclusion to this reading, please, because we've been here for a while. My readings are getting really long, but very few and far between. Hang on, let me... Okay, I'm going to... Let me see. What else do I want to do? There was another deck that I wanted to use. Yeah, let me go to Kim Kranz. Let me get a conclusion to this reading, please, because we've been here for a while. My readings are getting really long, but very few and far between. Hang on, let me... I'm getting under his eye and pot kettle black. So it's coming through with feelings and images as well, but I'm just trying to put it. How do I explain this? So it's harder the further in the reading I am, the harder it is to like look into the future in that way. Let me just sit with this a second. I might need some help. Let me get a song. Hold on. Spirit, help me. Help me understand. Sorry, I'm just pulling up Spotify. Currently got Papa Don't Preach by Madonna, which could be relevant to somebody. Papa Don't Preach. It could be Sunny by Cruel Youth. I don't know the lyrics to that song. Like, I'm just going to pause and I'm going to listen to this song for a second and see what I get. So basically, it's I only listened to a little bit of it, but it's somebody could call someone Sonny, like hey Sonny, like father son with Papa Don't Preach. So because there's this dragon energy, right? It's almost like watching, waiting, seeing what happens, and then the Leo energy feels more like the child energy possibly. What I think I'm getting, and again, it's coming through. It's like clouded. It's hard for me to get a grasp on this, but I think I've got it now. There is something coming through that's better, right? It's like the rainy days are gone, the sunny days are here. And with the lion energy, and with the word pride and under his eye. So I'm seeing something like whatever that dragon energy was, and the crocodile and the dragon, the kind of lizard energy. Because look, we've got the lion here as well, right? It feels like there's a bigger. I feel so funny saying this because I'm just wondering what this is, right? But I have this energy of like a bigger energy, so like a corporation or a government, right? The lizard energy. I don't want to go into conspiracy theories, but maybe somebody who is. It might not even be a person. It might be a like again like a corporation or a institution that's quite cold-blooded, quite ruthless, especially with the shark as well. But somebody can swim with the shark. Someone can move in that environment. But it feels quite cold and analytical, right? It doesn't feel like that dragon energy doesn't feel like that's where the warmth is and the creativity. It feels like whatever that overarching cold corporate situation is, or business situation or politics situation, it feels calculating, it feels strategic, it feels almost like very cold King of Swords energy. Kind of like feelings don't matter. What matters is the strategy. But Aquarius, King of Swords, they do also very much care about the people. They do want what's right for the people, but the reason for it could be different, right? So it's like how to convince a narcissist or a psychopath, somebody who doesn't have feelings, how to convince someone who doesn't have feelings to do the right thing. You have to convince them with logic. It has to make sense. So you have to speak their language. The shark feels like they speak their language. So it's kind of like, okay, if what matters to you, the corporation, is that you make money, this strategy makes money because it leads with the heart. So as an example, it would be like you go to the CEO who really likes his money and you say, people will buy things from our company if we do good things for charity. If we make donations to charity, we will get tax breaks. So the company will get richer if we donate to charity because people will like us more and we'll get tax breaks. And so the person who is not in the heart space will be convinced that this is the right thing to do because it's logical. Does that make sense? So even though they don't care about the charity, they'll still donate to the charity because they want the tax breaks and they want people to think that the company's nice. So you're seeing things from someone else's perspective and convincing them to do the right thing because you can speak their language. Somebody out there. It's like, if you're not going to do this out the goodness of your heart, do it because this strategy will make you the most money. So within that, under his eye, right, under the eye of the system, the corporation, the business, you have this team, Chimera, who together are getting the opportunity to do something that feels almost divinely led. The lion. So funny. My readings are so funny. And I always think I know what it is, and it always turns out to be something different. The lion's very brave. But it's almost like the lion is being praised. Right, so we had the lamb, right? We had the rainbow princess in the beginning. This one who is like Princess Diana for the royal family, right? Everybody loves her. But now we have this lion character who's going to be in the spotlight. Who... Leo energy in the upright is very, very lovable. Like, people want to be around them. They're very warm, very bombastic. For some reason, they're giving me Bottom from A Midsummer Night's Dream, who is a joke character, but everybody loves Bottom, right? Bottom is the highlight of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Excuse me. Yeah, sorry. So, this feels like a sort of person who's going to be in the spotlight, and they're okay to play the buffoon, right? They're okay with... it's almost like they're adored because they're a bit of a clown, or they're adored because they can laugh at themselves, right? Again, going back to that kind of like ego sublimation card, because Leo's all about overcoming the ego, mastering the ego. People think People think Leos are... I think sometimes have a really false perception of Leos as being quite narcissistic, but it's not... It doesn't necessarily mean that they're really confident. A lot of the time, that kind of self-reflection, introspection can make somebody really, really unconfident, because it's almost like they always feel like they're under a microscope. People are always watching what they're doing. It's kind of like living your life on a stage, right? Every little mess up, every little wrong word in the line of the play, like, people are going to overanalyze that or dissect it or laugh at you. And so with the Leo ego comes a real, almost especially if you have like Lilith or North Node, sometimes you can feel really uncomfortable in the limelight or the spotlight. You feel like all your insecurities are on show. But this feels like somebody who... it's like they go beyond that and they become really confident in who they are, and you know, they can laugh at themselves. The person who can't take a joke normally has a real lack of self-confidence, because when someone's really, really, truly confident with who they are and they have self-acceptance, you know, people can say whatever they want and it doesn't affect them. It's like water off a duck's back, because, you know, they can take a joke, they can laugh at themselves. I think okay, I'm going to name drop again, right? Donald Trump really loves the idea of being British, right? He loves the idea of British royalty. He loves talking about his Scottish heritage. Now, if you know, especially Northern, right? Scottish, Northern English, British people can take a fucking joke. And so, you know, expect to be teased. I'm the sort of person, if I don't know you very well, I'm probably going to be quite respectful. I'm probably going to be quite polite. if I am comfortable with you, if I really like you and I feel comfortable with you, I am going to tease you, right? Because that's the culture that I'm brought up in. It's like I can tease you because I love you, right? It's kind of like I saw an Irish comedian talking about this. She was doing like a skit in America where she was talking about the difference between, I think it was like New York men and Irish men. And it's kind of like a green flag in Ireland is kind of like, you look a right mess when you wake up in the morning. And it's kind of like, that's comfortable, that's jokey, that's familiar, that's loving, right? It's not mean. Where like men in America will be like, you're so beautiful. And she found it almost like a red flag. It's like, I don't trust you. Because the more comfortable you tend to be, if you're from this area, like the more comfortable you are with somebody, the more you take the piss out of them. Like that's a sign of, like, you know, especially guys, right? If if you meet a new group of guys, if you're in a new workplace, the second they start, you know, making jokes at your expense is the second that that group of guys has accepted you. It's like it's such a huge glass wall in terms of am I going to get on with this group of people or not, is whether they can take a joke and whether they can laugh, you know? Because nobody likes the Malvolio. Nobody likes the person who takes himself too seriously. And that's where I think, you know, Trump kind of gets it wrong is, you know, the guy who followed him around his golf course with a trombone. Like, that's fucking funny. And, you know, like, if they take it seriously, we're not going to respect him. We're not. So, I don't know. Learn to take a joke, I guess, if you're whoever this character is. It's not Donald Trump. My readings are not for Donald Trump. I don't think. I don't know. I've had one or two readings where I've been like, who am I reading for? Putin? Why are you in my reading? Anyway. Okay. I don't know. What are you leaving me with, Spirit? The siren? Yes. Do you remember I said about the Kelpie? The siren, the Kelpie. The siren talks about what is irresistible, like what is compelling. And she's not necessarily bad, especially if she comes out in the upright. She can talk about this card, and it doesn't have to be she. It can be a substance, right? It can be something that's really, really compelling, really, really draws you to it. It's almost like, excuse me, hearing that siren song, it's almost like this here, the Fool. It doesn't have to be bad. It can be the call of destiny. It can be the call of purpose. The shaman, the shadow, and the vow. There's definitely somebody who can walk through, it's like this, right? The siren and the shaman. It's like somebody who can really traverse different environments. They can transform. They might be able to transform an environment or transform a situation, because we do have all that vulture spirit transformation is beautiful. So it really feels like somebody's coming in and like the vulture spirit, it's almost like maggots, right? It's like it's not pleasant, but they do take away the bad parts. They do clean up something. So somebody who can transverse different environments. The shadow talks about good and bad, left and right. Let me get rid of some of these. Actually, do you know what? Let me put all these cards back in, and we'll see if any of those cards come out again. I just saw the lion. Tell me about the ooh, it's really hard with this on my finger. Tell me about the shadow. Why is the shadow here? Pluto. Yeah, there is definitely a death or an ending aspect, but Pluto does clean things up. Pluto is the energy of they show me the example of, yeah, like my dentist today, right? They remove what's no longer needed, right? They are, with almost like surgical precision, they're cutting away the dead flesh. because if you leave the, I'm really getting rot. If you leave the thing that is rotten, or the thing that's dead about a certain situation, if you leave it in there, it's just going to rot, right? And it's going to ruin the new beginning. So you need the Pluto energy to come in and cut out the the dead weight, right? Basically, the willow tree. Yeah. No, there's definitely some kind of death or returning to the earth energy about this, especially with the shaman as well. It's like somebody who is very good at understanding death energy. So it's almost like you know, like a death doula almost coming through. And the shadow, the willow tree. This is somebody who understands these cycles, right? Creation, you can't have creation without the raw materials, and the raw materials come from somewhere, right? There is this transformation that happens in nature where one thing ends and is destroyed, and this turns into the raw material components of something else. The willow tree is very, very flexible. They're very good with emotions. They actually draw on emotions. But the good thing about the willow tree, it doesn't break. It's very flexible, and there is a lot of potential with it, right? You can twist willow into so many different things. You can use it for baskets. You can use it for decoration. You can use it to line riverbanks to stop erosion. So there is utility here, which I think is this vulture spirit, right? It's like they understand how to break something down to its component parts and then reutilize it and use that for something new. What's the vow? Okay. The deep sea astronaut. I love the deep sea astronaut. There's, with the willow tree as well, there is something emotional here. There is some kind of resource to be explored. You know how people say we understand the solar system better than we do the depths of the ocean? Water always symbolizes emotional spaces for me. So there's this deep emotional exploration that can reveal a huge amount of understanding that we didn't know about before with this. The vow and the deep sea astronaut. There's a commitment to this. So there is a promise of something with this. But who better, right? If there is the need to do some exploration of emotional depth, then the right person to do this is the siren, right? They are the one with the like the fishtail, like they can, maybe someone's got like fishtail braids. That could be an indicator of somebody. Like this person could be the person who can withstand those kinds of emotional depths. Feels like, again, like kind of like death doula. It's somebody who is experienced, perhaps experienced a lot of death and destruction in their life. Like they've experienced endings, and so because those endings have come with new beginnings and more perspective, you know, like I was saying here, it's like going into something and then turning around and looking at it from the other side. You know, if you experience the end of something, whether this is the end of someone's life or the end of a situation, you know, if you've never experienced that before, it can feel really, really scary. You know, it's kind of like, I don't know what's on the other side of this ending. You know, all you can see is the ending, but then you do survive it and you do go past it, and things change and they transform and you find your new normal, and you look back and you think, I didn't know how I was going to survive that, but I did. And so if you run into another situation like that, instead of being so scared and only seeing the ending, you can see that there's going to be something after that, right? You can see that there's going to be a transformation. You can see that there's going to be a new normal. And when you have those emotional experiences and those emotional depths and the toolbox to prepare for endings, you can, it's like you're arming yourself for something. It's like you have that, you're armed with the knowledge that you need to make the most of the afterwards, right? It's kind of like maybe the first time you weren't prepared, and you had to learn how to, you had to learn how to deal with those changes, but then it happens again, and you know that there's going to be potential, right? Because you've looked back and you've seen it before. And so it's like, I know there's a lot of potential here. It's almost like chaos is a ladder, you know. It's kind of like the more you prepared you are for chaos, the more you can take advantage of the opportunities that come up in that turbulent time. Turtle, yeah, turtle and owl. Like someone has the knowledge to swim in that environment. But watch out for the traps. It does feel like somebody's like watching. What's the realization? Dragon. Yeah, dragon. Okay. There's definitely something, it's like something lurking in the depths that could be quite unexpected. Let me get one more song. Tell me about the realization, please. What's this? What is this? Fluffy by Wolf Alice. Fluffy, it sounds like the perfect name for Cerberus, right? The perfect nickname. You look smart, but I don't care. I'm not looking for no love affair, right? Somebody's not looking at somebody's beauty. And you know what? How someone looks is not necessarily what's on the inside. Just because someone looks smart doesn't mean they are smart. Let me just check what that was. Oh, sweet. My eldest is bringing me back a vegan bake. From Greg's. Which, again, if you're from the north of England, can't beat a good Greg's. This might actually be relevant to what I'm about to read from Wolf Alice. You look smart, but I don't care. I'm not looking for no love affair. I'd sell you my soul just to get me somewhere. Don't be selling your souls. Listen. Yeah. Just be careful what you're signing up for. Okay, I am not this person. What's there to do in this dead end? No, hang on. What's there to do in this dead old town? Oh, I can't believe I live here now. So I'm searching for cheap thrills some way, somehow. Ah, 16, so sweet. Um, yeah, what's there to do in this dead old town? I quite like my Greg's, actually. I quite like where I live. Send me a ride and make it bright and early. What makes you smile just makes me feel funny. Who's gonna love me here? And where's all the money? What's there to do? I sit here waiting, palms itching. I hear the wheels breaking, the train coming. So somebody who wants to get out a place. So there could be somebody who is coming from somewhere where there's a lack of opportunity. Again, there could be something about like northern industrial towns. I was reading a lot about Cobden and Manchesterism, which I'd never really heard of before, but you know, like people talk about Marxism or socialism or like all these different isms. There's Manchesterism, which is like a whole political strategy. And I was like, what? Why have I never been taught this in school? And then, yeah, if you think about, what was I reading about? I swear it was like, I was reading about this Cobden guy. And like, oh no, it's The Clash. So sorry, I've been looking and reading different things. So sometimes it takes me a second to kind of like find the reference for what I'm thinking of. So you know this song by The Clash that's like ding 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 ding. It's some of the lyrics feel a little bit racist to say, but it's like and basically they're talking about like 4 different things that were happening culturally at the time it was written. One of the things was, I think it was like Rochdale closed, like I don't know if it's some mines or like an industrial factory, like they used to make stuff. Was it like the steel works in Rochdale? And you know, obviously when an industry pulls out of a town, you know, people lose their jobs and there might not be any jobs to fill those gaps, so people are become unemployed, and then like it can fall into poverty. You know, it can really ruin a town, which obviously like fucking Thatcher and stuff did a lot to the north in the 80s. Fucking milk snatcher. My dad taught me to hate Margaret Thatcher. So like I think this is something about like industry over people and people over industry. We are in Pluto in Aquarius now, so we're going to see a lot of this kind of theme coming up. We can already see it. You know, when corporations, industry, capitalism is more of a priority than socialism and like people power. And then we're starting to see a lot of marches. We're seeing a lot of protests. We're seeing a lot of kind of community collective action against what governments are doing. Again, talking about like the flotillas. You know, we're seeing people power. It's making me think of turtle power, you know, Turtle power, which we've got the turtle, Turtle power, but it's like P-E-O, hang on, how do you spell people? P-E-O-P-L-E power, P-E, I wonder if that's going to be like a chant, people power. So we're seeing this, it's fated, it's in the stars, this idea of Pluto in Aquarius. People are reevaluating politics, they're reevaluating social systems, they're reevaluating uh, yeah, like anything that touches like the collective and social things. Um, and that time of the corporations having all the power is kind of over now. Now a lot of signs and planets have moved out of Capricorn. So yeah, power's shifting back to the people, and the powers that be don't like that. They're, you know, they see it as a threat to their money, to their control. And when big corporations or people with too much power feel threatened, they kind of crack down into tyranny. Um, but it's the sign that that's going to fall. It's the sign that it's already on its death knell. Um, there's a really great guy on YouTube that I've been watching. He kind of, honestly, he kind of throws stuff at the wall and sees what sticks. He has a very similar thing. He's a professor, but his method is very similar to like the way I speak in my readings. I'm like, yeah, me and that guy could have a chin wag. What was his name though? Let me see if I can find him. Oh, he was literally the second video in my feed. Professor, I want to say Jiang explains. Professor Jiang explains. He's got some really interesting theories in his videos. I wouldn't say to treat him as a voice of authority or an expert on certain matters. I don't believe that's what he's a professor, but I don't think he's a professor of any of the topics he's talking about in his videos specifically. But he does have a lot of very, very interesting, potentially valid theories, and I think he is worth listening to because I think he brings up some really, really interesting theories and talking points. I definitely jive with him. Yeah, so he has this one video where he's talking about the modes that a government or a country can move through, and the signs that countries are on its last legs, basically. And you do find that when a country's on its last legs, you get more tyranny, you get more police powers, you get use of army against civilians, you get all these different things, and by that point it's often too late. There's going to be a change, there's going to be reform, there's going to be civil unrest, right? It's like it's in the death knell of that government or that country or that system, in the form that it currently takes. Like it's served its purpose. And so you can move backwards, you can avoid what feels like it's the inevitable, but you have to move away from the tyranny, because it's a knee-jerk response, right? It's a cause and react, and you know, if you cause and react and follow the same pattern, you're going to have the same end. So you need to break that cycle, or you need to revert things to get back to, you know, the better times. And so but once some people start getting more and more authoritative, yeah, it's the only way is down, right? It's the sign that civilization is crumbling. So that doesn't mean it's going to be the end, but it does mean transformation is almost guaranteed. Like things are not going to be the same as they were before. There's going to be a new cycle. So similar to if we're looking at Roman times. Sorry, some of you are asleep by now. I'm sorry, I do waffle a lot. But again, I guess my guides want me to get everything out in one video because God knows how many months it's going to be until I do my next one. But if you look at Roman times, Rome had a series of phases. So my speciality went from the beginning of Rome and the time of kings. I think there were 7 kings. Again, it's been a while since I did my course, but I think there were 7 legendary kings of Rome. So very similar to like the Basilii in Greece. You know, there was these kind of like tribal kings that ruled. Um, and there's all these fables around them, and examples of good and bad leadership, and comparing and contrasting those. I really, really loved. Was it Livy, The History of Rome? I think it was really interesting. So after the time of kings, the Rexes, or Rexi, you get the Republic, which I think is one of the most famous periods of the Roman times, which is the most similar, I think, to the way America is at the moment. You know, you had the 2 senates kind of thing. You had the equestrian kind of noble class, and then you had the plebs. You know, similar to like the House of Commons, House of Lords in the UK. So this would be like the Senate House and the representatives or whatever. I don't know American politics very well, but I'm more interested in like the old stuff like than the new stuff. I'm like, I've seen that before. But yeah, you get they're meant to keep each other in check and keep each other in balance, basically. Especially if you look at like House of Commons, House of Lords, they have to, when they're passing a law, they pass it back and forth between them until they agree on something. But it's very, very similar to the system that the Roman Republic had. But then there was civil war, and you get Pompey and Caesar, and then eventually and Mark Antony, and then eventually Augustus, who restabilized. And Augustus is seen as the the middle point of this transformation. And then after that you have the emperors, and you have the Roman Empire. So it stops being a republic and it becomes an empire. And so yeah, there's it's still Rome. It's still for the most part the same people. There's obviously coming and going across the years, but for the most part it's still the same place, it's still the same people, but the form of governments that they have is completely changed. It goes from king, republic to empire. Um, yeah, and it's not a sudden change. There's a lot of small things that happen along the way. So Augustus himself, who is considered to be the first emperor, would never have called himself emperor. You know, he was the first among men. He was just one of the men. He was just the guy at the front of the queue of the group of men. You know, is the way that he would have, or that he did. I want to say propagate himself, but I don't think that's the right word. That he did show himself in his own propaganda. He was like, I'm just one of the guys. They just put me in charge, because they like me a lot. I'm just really popular. So, but I'm just like everybody else, because sticking your head over the pulpit or sticking your head over the crowd um, wasn't a wise thing to do in that period of Roman times. What am I saying? Maybe there's a warning in that for the Leo character. Like, don't let your ego get the better of you. Don't get too much attention. I think that's probably where I'm going to leave that. So the last song that came through, which was kind of the thing to leave you with, was I've lost it. My battery's dying. I've got 2 phones. The battery's just going on both of them. Fluffy by Wolf Alice. And it's an eye close-up as well. So we kind of started with what is it with the eye close-up? Maybe somebody's going to the opticians. So you've got the eye close-up here. I had to think about seeing the eye at the beginning, and then if I can kind of show you this without showing you too much, can you see, like, it's a big eye? Sorry, that's a really bad view. Maybe there's like a Big Brother type thing. Big Brother's watching you. 3 a.m. Stripped by Halsey is the song that just randomized when I did a final one. So something could happen at 3 a.m. I don't know. I hope this was helpful to you. It is what it is, right? My readings sometimes they have a positive ending, sometimes they don't. But I think preparation's important. You know, the readiness is all. I'm gonna go. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you again soon. Bye, friends. Ooh.